Her voice was feeble, too. I wasn't close enough to overhear, but had the other person told her something? And who was it, anyway? I'd assumed it was Tsukihite.
I didn't mean to. That's a misunderstanding. I never said that. Yes, huh? True. You're right. Wait, you don't need to. That wasn't our agreement. No, please, give me some time. Understood. I'll do exactly as you say. Is that fine?
She hung up. Closing her eyes as though in resignation, she tossed the phone at me, like she was taking something out on me. Confused, I peered into her face, but as if my very gaze were irritating, she said, "You can go home." I had no idea what had happened. I really didn't have a clue, but one thing was clear. She'd stepped out of the way and allowed me access to the door. I can? Are you sure?
You can, and Araragi. How do I...
Bitterly, or grudgingly. Like what she was about to say totally went against her will. Senjo Gahara, who usually spoke in such a flat and inflectionless tone, stammered out the words. Whoever had called must have insisted that she apologize to me, a demand so unpalatable that fulfilling it made Senjo Gahara bite her bottom lip and shake with humiliation. Hey, if it's that harrowing, don't bother on my account. Miss Gahara? If you don't mind? Who is that on the phone? Her answer was concise.
Hanakawa.
Tsukihi had sent a message asking for help. In other words, she was in trouble. I decided to head home immediately. By the way, when I asked Senjo Gahara what had happened to my bike, she told me there just happened to be a garbage pickup spot nearby, so she'd parked it there. Such a heartless thing to do. Was the Valhalla duo in the bicycle disposal business, or what? I asked her where the pickup spot was and wound up having to swing back there on my way home. It was pretty far out of the way, but still faster than running. Of course, I didn't neglect to see Senjo Gahara home first. Even if we were fighting, she was my girlfriend. Midnight. Dawn was still far away. In the afternoon, I'd had to sneak to my bike to avoid being spotted by Tsukihi, but at this hour, I had to creep in so that my parents wouldn't notice. Well, they were generally hands-off with me. And maybe I didn't need to worry, but I had to act the part. The least I could do was to appear guilty. For form's sake, damn, that sounds so small. Anyway, I sneaked through the front door, down the hallway, and up the stairs to my sister's bedroom. Karen and Tsukihi shared it.
I didn't do anything wrong.
She was sitting on the bottom bunk looking sullen, her cheeks puffed out and her lips in a pout for all the world like she was being punished for a crime she didn't commit. Her face was slightly flushed. She seemed offended, if anything.
What have I done to get you mad at me? Tsuki shouldn't have said anything. It's got nothing to do with you anyway, so just leave me alone.
Ah, brother and sister. Even Senjo Gahara would at least have said thank you. Do you have any clue what kind of danger I escaped to get home, Tailhead? She'd changed from her outdoor jersey to an around-the-house jersey. She could go join Hachikuji for being such a Jersey cow. But I'd been pestering her about it for years, and now wasn't the time, so I let that go.
Karen?
Tsukihi was acting pretty sheepish as far as I could tell. Karen must have given her shit for asking for my help. They almost never disagreed, but in the rare instances they did clash. Just as you'd expect, it was usually the younger Tsukihi who backed down. I guess seniority ruled, and when push came to shove, it didn't matter who was the enforcer or the strategist. Putting that aside, first, just tell me what's going on. What in the world happened after I left? I thought you were going to regale me with your heroic deeds. I'd read the rest of Tsuki's message but was still in the dark. I only knew that Karen had gotten into trouble. She wasn't injured, as far as I could tell. But with these girls, that didn't mean I could rest easy, I urged. Karen ignored. Damn, I wanted to choke her. I'll ask you again, bigger sister. What happened?
Go, get bent!
Nya. She stuck her tongue out at me. She didn't forget to pull down the flesh under her eyes with her forefingers either. A girl who was already in her 3rd year of middle school. I was so mad I raised my hand without thinking.
Araragi.
The person who stopped me was standing by the window and leaning against the wall. It was Hanakawa. Tsubasa Hanakawa. She'd stopped me with a single utterance.
Araragi, you got really mad on my behalf when my father hit.
I had no reply. I stood still as a statue.
I believe that corporal punishment has its place. If you have an explanation that would satisfy Karen, then by all means, go ahead.
Sorry.
Why apologize to me?
Guided by her words, I turned toward Karen. Sorry, I lost it. I bowed my head. First Senjogahara. And now I had been made to apologize by Hanakawa. This wasn't a case of seniority, but the power relationship was just as clear. That said, Senjogahara succumbing to Hanakawa surprised me. I knew my girlfriend wasn't comfortable with the class president, but assumed it was just their different personalities. But making Senjogahara issue even a stammering apology against her will when she didn't think she was at fault, that went beyond any awkwardness. Tsubasa Hanakawa, our ridiculously brilliant classmate, not only had the best grades in our year, this one time, she also came in first for the national mock exams. Senjogahara once referred to Hanakawa as the real deal and a monster. I strenuously object to the addendum but agree wholeheartedly that she's the real deal. She alone doesn't smell the least fake. Hanakawa really saved me during spring vacation. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I'd be dead if not for her. I might be physically alive, but I'd have died for sure spiritually. Calling her my savior doesn't do it justice. She's like my second mother, because as I see it, it wasn't that I cheated death. Thanks to her, I was reborn. Obviously, Hanakawa is our class president. I'm the vice president, by the way. She forced me into it. And a class president among class presidents. With her glasses, braids, and neat bangs, she looked every bit the part of the model student until the culture festival. Afterwards, she cut her hair, shoulder length, with a shag to the bangs. She also switched her glasses for contacts, and while she didn't mess with her uniform, her school-designated bag was adored with accessories. So what? You might say, but it's a huge event, as if the sun suddenly rose in the west one day. Thanks to this transformation on the part of the brightest star in Naotsu High history, our homeroom teacher had collapsed, the head teacher for our year had been hospitalized, and the principal had penned a letter of resignation. People were rumoring in earnest. Whether any of that was true, a hornet's nest had been dropped into our class. She hadn't dyed her hair green or gotten a tattoo, but there was a commotion like Hanakawa had turned into a delinquent overnight.
Thought I'd change my image?
That was all she said in response to all hell breaking loose. She'd told them, and told them good. There weren't to be follow-up questions. Actually, I knew the reason for that image change, or rather, I had a fair idea, nothing more. Just that, which is also precisely why I couldn't ask her about it. The other day, Tsubasa Hanakawa had suffered a broken heart. Cutting her hair due to some romantic misfortune was no longer a thing, but Hanakawa could be an anachronistic woman that way. I doubted a haircut could wash away heartbreak, but she seemed to require such a reckoning. Ditching the braid, getting rid of her glasses. She didn't seem like an obvious class president anymore, just an ordinary girl. Which was fine, just fine. It was what she'd always hoped for. She was indeed an ordinary girl. After all, though I almost felt like she'd undergone an exorcism. No, an exorcism wasn't it. Maybe she'd tamed what possessed her. That was my impression. In any case, the question was what this new Hanakawa, I say new but it was already a month since her image changed, so I was pretty used to it by now, was doing in my sister's room. Then again, if she weren't, she wouldn't have called me at that moment. It's not like her personality had changed. She was as serious as ever. Not the type to call a boy in the middle of the night. So, I was about to ask Hanakawa why.
Tsubasa, don't scold my brother. It was my fault just now, and if he had slapped me, I'd have slapped him back.
That was when Karen, for whom Hanakawa had just interceded, cut in.
Really? Then I was butting in.
Hanakawa shrugged her shoulders, jokingly it seemed.
Yeah, you were. I doubt you could slap him back, though. Then I'd bite him, just so you know I've got teeth like steel, Tsubasa.
Geez. Giving lip to her erstwhile protector was pure Karen, but when the hell did she start calling Hanakawa by her first name? I turned toward Tsukihi.
Don't look at me, I call her by her last name.
That wasn't the point. It's not even which name to use, I thought. You better start addressing her as ma'am. But that wasn't the point either. Partly because Hanakawa tutored me, she and my sisters were already acquainted. But when did they get so close?
Koyomi, just listen and don't get angry. I know my brother won't get angry about such a thing. See, this time, the Fire Sisters enrolled Miss Hanakawa.
You did what? I shouted instantly. What were they thinking? They'd gotten Hanakawa involved.
Araragi, don't be so loud. You'll wake your parents. And I never knew you were the type to intimidate your sisters by yelling at them.
My hands were tied. I wanted Hanakawa to think I was a good boy.
Miss Hanakawa, please don't scold Koyomi. He's just worried that we inconvenienced you.
Actually placing herself between me and Hanakawa. What was with this scene where my sisters were covering for me? It seemed so unfair. Geez, After I calmed down a little, I realized something. This morning, yesterday morning actually, in terms of the date, Tsukihi somehow knew that my tutoring was cancelled. Figuring I must have told her when she'd woken me up, I didn't give it further thought, but that hadn't been why. She'd known beforehand that Hanakawa would have plans and that the session would be cancelled. No wonder Tsukihi knew. She and Karen were behind it.
Araragi, it was my own decision to help Karen and Tsukihi, so don't be mad at them. The Araragi I know would never take it out on his little sisters.
Narish. I was starting to feel manipulated. Not that I'd ever defy Hanakawa, manipulation or not.
You know that expression, wings on a tiger? This is like...
What a clunky attempt to play on Tsubasa Hanakawa. Sometimes I wondered if Karen really was my sister. Fine. I promise I won't get angry.
And you won't tell Mom and Dad either.
Pushing it. Knowing that Hanakawa was in their corner, they had another thing coming if they thought I'd honor any promise I made with them. I'd break it like it was made of brittle glass. It's our secret. Now hurry up and explain. What happened? What's going on?
Indeed. What is going on?
I was this close to wringing Karen's neck. She clearly wasn't going to tell me. I needed to ask either Tsukihi or Hanakawa in that case, but Hanakawa was an accomplice at most. If I wanted details, I was going to have to get them from Tsukihi. Yeah. I knew I'd lose my cool again dealing with one of my sisters. For now, it was better if I started with Hanakawa. Would you come to my room for a minute? I needed to talk to all three of them, but first her. I pointed my thumb at the wall in the direction of my room.
Oh, he wants to take Tsubasa to his room.
Karen was just delighted. One day, I'd kill her.
Of course, Karen Tsukihi, it's going to be fine. You did the right thing once Araragi hears what I have to say. I'm sure he'll understand. Don't worry, I'll explain everything.
Miss Hanakawa?
Tsubasa!
My sisters stared up into Hanakawa's face with twinkles in their eyes. They seemed to trust her very much. Maybe that was just the natural response to Hanakawa.
But Tsubasa, you'll be alone with Koyomi.
Karen, shut up. Forget about what's happening now. I worry about your future.
Don't worry about that either. I know I can trust your big brother.
Reassured Hanakawa, patting Karen, who was sitting on her bed, on the head before exiting the room first. Seriously, there was no living up to her example. Hey, Biggie.
What do you want, Shorty?
Strange. Karen returned my insult, but it seemed like her heart wasn't in it. She was lacking her usual fire. Whenever I called her that, she tended to come flying at me in a rage regardless of the situation. But she didn't even budge, and just sat there with her legs crossed.
What? Go stare at someone else.
I'm sure you did do the right thing. You're always right. I won't deny that. But that's all you are. You aren't always strong. Unless you're strong, you lose. You do martial arts, you should understand that. The first requirement of justice isn't being right. It's being strong. That's why justice always prevails. It's about time you saw that. Until you do, you'll never change. You'll always be make-believe defenders of justice. Fakes. I left without waiting for my sisters to reply, stepping out into the hallway and closing the door behind me. Hanakawa was standing there waiting, like she had nothing to do. But she also seemed
I know I shouldn't say this, but watching you with your sisters is entertaining.
Give me a break.
I think they're good kids.
I think they're brats. I led Hanakawa to my room. Unlike Kabaru, I kept it in pretty good order, so I was ready for unexpected guests. You can sit on the bed.
I'm not sure it's the right place to ask girls to sit.
Huh? Why not? That's where Sengoku asked me to sit. In fact, I'd been told that I wasn't allowed to anywhere else. Recalling that moment, I sat in my chair. By the way, Hanakawa, why are you dressed in your school uniform when it's the middle of the night? I know you wear your uniform even over summer vacation, but that aside, do you even own normal clothes? I don't think I've ever seen you in street clothes.
You've seen me in my pajamas before.
Pajamas aren't street clothes. If we're really being picky, I'd seen her in her underwear too. But that was that, and still not street clothes. What I wanted to see was Hanakawa in a casual outfit she'd chosen for herself. Was she ever going to oblige me?
Today is just a coincidence, actually. This is how I happened to be dressed when I met up with your sisters earlier in the evening. Maybe I should start there.
Please.
It's kind of refreshing. It's kind of refreshing.
Hmm?
Well, the way you worry about your sisters, compared to the way you worry about me, or Senjogahara, or Mayoi, or Kimbari, or Sengoku seems different somehow. I don't know how to put it. It's more desperate.
Desperate.
You're like a different person when it comes to Karen-chan and Tsukihii-chan. You were pretty strict with them just now. They're right, but they're not strong. Are you sure that wasn't directed at yourself?
I hate people who are like me?
Not that I imagine you want to be told that, but I'm not sure that's how I'd put it. Plain self-hatred, maybe?
I sighed in response, both because that was apparently how people saw me and because it was true. It was a complicated sigh. Justice man, I'd been called by Senjogahara. Hanekawa. You've only known my sisters for about a month now, so I don't blame you. But me, I've lived with Karen-chan for 15 years and Tsukihii-chan for 14. After all that time, I can tell. I was only done prefacing what I was about to say, but something struck Hanekawa as being so funny that she burst out into laughter, so I broke off before I could get to my point. Hanekawa.
No, I'm sorry. But you just called them Karen-chan.
What a hideous misstep. What did I just do? Using Chan with them was an old habit from when we were kids. That's why I tried not to call them by name. Bigger and littler, and all that was my way of playing it off. I'd slipped up in front of Hanekawa, of all people. Gah! Ow, ow, ow.
Come on, Araragi. It's no big deal. I do that with them too.
And no, I was just imitating you. I was treating them like kids, rhetorically, but usually I just call them Karen and Tsukihii. Hanekawa gazed at me pityingly. This was so embarrassing. Putting that aside, let's get down to the business at hand, Hanekawa. It sounds like this might be time-sensitive.
No problem.
Stop. Your kindness hurts. Anyway, I already know some of the background. They were looking for the source of these charms circulating among middle schoolers, right?
How do you know that?
Through Sengoku, actually. Unfortunately, my little sisters,
Karen-chan and Tsukihii-chan.
my little sis,
You mean Karen-chan and Tsukihii-chan.
meaning Hanekawa. Maybe I was wrong, and her personality did change, along with her hairstyle. Karen-chan and Tsukihii-chan are like celebrities among other middle school kids. Sengoku hears stories about their shenanigans.
See, speaking of which, Sengoku fell victim to one of those charms, didn't she?
She was the only one, to be precise.
Nope, she wasn't. Just the one to suffer the worst consequences. Those charms are actually having all sorts of negative effects.
All sorts? All are?
Mostly in terms of interpersonal relationships.
Right. In Sengoku's case too, she wasn't the lone victim. Some relationships surrounding her had also suffered.
When I looked into it, the so-called charms that are popular are mostly malicious. The tendency is clear. Karen and Suki's idea that someone spread them intentionally seems to have been a shot in the dark, but it didn't fall far from the mark.
She added that if it hadn't been summer break, she wouldn't have been able to investigate. True, an extended vacation was the only time for such an inquiry. By the way, when did you start working with them?
I wouldn't go so far as to say I was working with them. I just lent them a hand every now and then. But in terms of how long, I guess since the beginning of summer break.
Huh, so you helped them. Then you must have located the culprit. In other words, when Karen's cell phone had rung earlier, it had been Tsubasa Hanekawa herself. No wonder my little sister had prioritized the call over me.
It pains me when you make it sound like this is my fault.
She actually looked pained. I didn't want to inflict any pain on her, but I had to say it. You know, Ashino was leery about this side of you. You're too competent and can't ever not arrive at the answer. It had saved me. But the opposite was also true. For instance, she hadn't been able to save herself. Her own competence had stood in the way.
True. But I couldn't go about it half-heartedly either.
Right. Just like Karen-chan, Tsukihii-chan, and I have to accept our own weakness. You have to accept your own strength. Well, that ship had already sailed. Just as fakes have to admit that they're fakes, the genuine articles have to acknowledge that they're the genuine articles. Seriously, it's not like we can cast ourselves away. So, Karen located the culprit, went to negotiate, and had something done to her.
Correct. I was acting on my own at the time and didn't show up until later, so I never saw the culprit in person. If I joined up with your sisters first, I might have been able to help.
Did Karen say anything about what this culprit is like?
Oh, let's see. His name is Dishu Kaikian, ominous man, apparently.
Hanakawa shifted her weight, and the bed creaked a little. Although it was only for half a day, I'd been held hostage in those ruins and was covered in dirt and grime. Right after getting the gist of the story from Hanakawa and leaving my sisters in her care, I decided to take a bath. That might sound too relaxed, but I could tell from what I'd heard that panicking wouldn't do any good. To be honest, I was worried that if I didn't take a short time out, I'd wind up yelling at Karen and Tsukihi again. Deishu Keiki. Ugh, of all people, why get mixed up with a guy like him? When I ran into him outside Kanbaro's house, he did mention that Araragi was a name he'd heard very recently. He was referring to Karen. Well, it wasn't a very common name after all. Damn it, what a coincidence. Well, maybe it was a silver lining. I could get more info on Kaiki by talking to Senjogahara. But he'd already gotten us into a fight. She might not be too keen on answering my questions. By the way, after Hanakawa had finished filling me in, I'd taken the opportunity to ask her. It was thanks to her that I escaped my gruesome confinement. But what on earth did she say to Senjogahara over the phone?
Oh, that? After Tsukihi texted you. She found it strange that you didn't reply right away, so we decided I should call. I was reluctant, considering the time, but they insisted. They might not say so, but they clearly trust their big brother.
Yeah, I think I figured out that process. But how did you convince Senjogahara? None but Senjogahara.
It wasn't hard. As soon as I heard her voice, I more or less surmised what was going on. So I cut to the chase. I told her, if you won't listen, I'll tell Araragi that I'm in love with you.
Brutal? That was the biggest ace up Hanakawa's sleeve in a way. I could hardly play the same card in negotiating with Senjogahara for info on Kaiki, so I just have to ask nicely, though it might not get me anywhere. First, a bath. I washed myself carefully and submersed my body in the tub. The handcuffs, which I was unable to remove, remained on my wrists like gaudy bracelets and lightly banged against the side of the tub. As if timed to coincide with the sound of the cuffs, from my shadow stretching under the bathroom's yellowish light gloom, emerged Shinobu Oshino. It reminded me of a certain famous RPG. Vampire A draws near. Vampire A was looking at me. Vampire Shinobu Oshino spent most of her time concealed in my shadow. It was impossible to predict when she would appear. And as a result, by this point, regardless of when she happened to show, I was no longer very surprised. Still, the bath was a new one. I suppose it was the setting, but she wasn't wearing any clothes. A stark naked, beautiful blonde girl. As situations go, it was supremely terrible. Even criminal, but Shinobu's form was currently an 8-year-old's, so unlike with Kanbaru, I was unaffected by her nobile fair skin and just felt glad that she was looking well. Shinobu, however, flashed me a broad grin.
Now that ye have marked me in the nude, must I become thy bride, my master?
She spoke in a childlike voice, but pompously. To say I was surprised would be an understatement. I nearly sank into the bathwater. Shinobu spoke. Shinobu.
What troubles thee? Ye look like a deer caught in the headlights. Or should I say, a vampire shot with a silver bullet? Is it so wondrous to hear me speak? Did ye presume that I had forgotten how?
Well, no. I knew she could speak. I never thought she'd forgotten. Well, she looked like an 8-year-old girl, and though she'd lost most of her powers, that didn't change the fact that Shinobu was actually a 500-year-old vampire. The surprising part was talking to me. Out of the blue, for no particular reason. Shinobu Oshino, the vampire, the former vampire. Now a pale shadow of one, the dregs of a vampire. Unparalleled in beauty, cold as iron and hot as blood, a monster among monsters. The king of aberrations. Aberration slayer, they even used to call her. She'd slain me, and I'd slain her. That was why, ever since the end of spring break, dwelling in the ruins of the old cram school with Oshino and sealed within my shadow now, she hadn't spoken a word to me. Not one syllable, not master in Nautha's blood. Not social love, not soka justice. Not soka justice home, that's say. Not masters. That was why ever since the end of
I grew bored. I am loquacious by nature, as ye know. Just how much longer was I meant to bite my tongue? Ken as much on thy own, my master.
Shinobu turned the shower spigot and poured hot water over her head. As a vampire, there was no real need for her to bathe, but she closed her eyes as if it felt nice. I was completely lost for words. No, it wasn't that I was happy. Happiness didn't seem appropriate. But how else could I put it? How could I not feel happy? Unable to think of anything appropriate to say, I went for, thanks.
For what?
Shinobu closed the spigot and glared at me, the water dripping off her body. Despite her childlike appearance, she was still a vampire, and her gaze remained as sharp as ever. It seemed even more bitter and piercing now than when she'd simply stared at me in silence. Oh, this thing, you helped me snap it, didn't you? I hurriedly held up the cuffs and the broken chain. Right after Tsukihi texted me, obviously I hadn't done it with my own strength, no matter how urgent the situation. I couldn't have summoned enough adrenaline to break through steel. It had to have been Shinobu's doing, from within my shadow.
Did I? Kaha, I forget. In any case, thy taste in jewelry is atrocious. Come.
Shinobu reached her tiny hand toward my wrists. This time she destroyed not merely the chain, but the cuffs themselves, tearing them like a couple of plump donuts. Her love for Mr. Donuts was no secret. Before I even had time to register shock, Shinobu tossed both of the cuffs into her mouth and chomped and smacked. She may have lost most of her power, but she was still every inch the vampire, free from the slightest ounce of logic or reserve. The same Shinobu that I remembered. It was oddly comforting.
Save thy thanks. I do as I please before, now and always. 'Twas pure serendipity that my deed accorded with thy wishes in this, my master.
Shinobu?
My hair! My hair!
She cut me off before I could finish. She pointed toward her golden locks. What about your hair?
Yea, may wash my hair. I wish to try this shampoo as a lark. I have been watching from thy shadow for some time, and it always strikes me as diverting.
I'm allowed to touch you?
How else will you wash my hair?
Okay, I'll include a conditioning treatment. I got out of the tub. I was naked too, of course, but in Shinobu's case, I didn't feel very embarrassed. I had little shame left to hide from her eyes. I cupped shampoo in my hand and passed my fingers through her hair. It felt as I remembered, like a clear stream. I haven't seen you without your helmet and goggles in a while.
Ha! I am done with that.
You are?
'Twas lame. Unfashionable.
I thought it had suited her. I suppose it was Ashino's taste, and maybe she was never happy with it. I worked her small head up into a lather. As a vampire, she equaled her image of herself, or in other words, didn't get dirty, so I easily worked up a vigorous frothing lather, and said once again,
Shush, shush.
Shinobu interrupted me again.
Save thy breath. I shall not pardon thee, nor do I suppose you'll pardon me.
She spoke facing forward, staring at the mirror affixed to the wall, at her absent reflection.
So be it. We shall not forgive each other, so it shall be. We must not wash away the past. Still we may accost each other. I have pondered the matter carefully these 3 or 4 months, and that is the conclusion I have reached. How do you like it, my master?
Shinobu closed her eyes, annoyed by the shampoo suds that hung down her face. I didn't know you were bothering to think about it.
Ye seem to have given it consideration as well. I would know, conversant with thy shadow as I am.
Haha. I reached over Shinobu's head to turn the shower spigot and began rinsing her hair. Next, I began applying the hair treatment. She had an impressive amount of hair, so I had to use ample conditioner.
It's not as if I can hold a grudge forever. I am not so petty. Besides, I have something important to communicate that cannot be left unspoken.
Yeah?
While I do fancy pondering donuts, I much more favor the golden chocolate flavor. Know as much if ye would purchase too.
Of course. Well, she was a blonde vampire. After all, I guess golden suited her. Handle the rest yourself, I said, getting back into the tub.
The cinder swarm bee. A giant hornet aberration.
Huh? Hornet class, Ancesta, order Hymenoptera, family Vespidae?
The particular variety is not found in my homeland, so I know not the details. But they say that among bees, nay, among insects, nay, among all organisms no stronger fighting regiments exist. In collective warfare, at least, none other compare. They are social yet viciously fierce and aggressive.
Though perhaps less so than vampires, Shinobu added. Wait. Don't tell me. That way of speaking, which reminded me so much of that dude.
It is the aberration, currently afflicting thy dear, giant younger sister.
Giant seems like a bit much. After all, Shinobu was even larger in her true form. If I recalled correctly, adult Shinobu was nearly 6 feet tall.
I give thee fair notice that none of this is my own knowledge. I may be the aberration slayer, but even I am not familiar with all such creatures. Besides, I specialize in devouring. I don't concern myself with the names of my victuals only, with their taste.
So then,
This information is courtesy of that brat.
as a vampire, Shinobu generally declined to distinguish one human from the next. The person she bothered to call a brat was Mimoshino.
Do you have any notion of how it felt for one such as myself? Forced to give ear while that piddling excuse of a man expostulated incessantly day in and day out, regardless of any personage but himself, and always with the most trivial of stories about aberrations.
That did suck. I always wondered how Ashino and Shinobu passed the time when it was just the two of them. I guess now I had my answer.
The Cindersworn bee was just one of the countless arcana he blabbered on about. If I am not mistaken, it is an aberration hailing from the Muromachi period. The long and short of it is that it is a contagion of unknown cause.
An infectious disease, that was the truth of the matter. But the illness was interpreted as the work of an aberration. While that belief was in error, the important point was that it was thought of in such a way. From there, aberrations bubbled out, just as the vampire phenomenon ultimately owed to a hematological affliction.
The contagion causes a fever severe enough to immobilize its victim and eventually runs to death. In fact, several hundred perished. It was some time before a renowned shaman of the time was able to quell the outbreak or so. I've heard records in old chronicle. It was as if stung by an untouchable bee. One's body were enveloped in fire. Something to that effect.
Karen was just being brave, like always. And though I sadly hadn't even noticed, she was physically exhausted. Racked by a fever so high it was like burning, enveloped in fire. She was feeling hot. The long and short of it was that she was sick. That was why she'd been sitting on the bed. That was why her cheeks were so flushed, not because she was cross. And the only reason she didn't fly at me in a rage was that she could barely move. Until I came home, she was asleep. Or more like passed out. If not, Tsukihi probably wouldn't have been able to send for my help in the first place. Now I understood what Hanekawa meant when she said, "I doubt you could slap him back, though." She knew how sick Karen was, that she was exhausted. Stick. No wonder Hanekawa protected her. But you know, Karen had it coming.
Had it coming?
The chickens came home to roost. Or maybe that should be roast.
Roast chicken? Thou art harsh on thy kinswomen. Not that it astonishes me at this point, as I have been watching thee from the galleys for some time now. Still, not to copy a phrase from the former class president, but I never knew.
Former? Hanekawa was still class president. Did Shinobu think the title referred to fashion choices? I don't think I'm particularly harsh. Anyway, it's hard to tell from just Hanekawa's account, but it sounds like this Keiki guy infected my sister with an aberration's poison. Like with an illness, Karen had caught an aberration. Not that I know if the toxin is from the Cindersworn bee aberration, or if such a thing is even possible.
Perhaps. Such things are known to be. But if thy Sinduri maiden is to be believed, this Kaiki is a fake and a swindler, is he not?
True. I agreed. Still, Sundere maiden. Being in my shadow, Shinobu experienced everything that I did. She'd think that about Senjagahara. But thinking of Senjagahara as a run-of-the-mill tsundere amounted to a massive misunderstanding of human culture.
Of course, being a fake does not preclude him from using true arts. The counterfeit often rings truer than the real.
Wise words. I nodded. That hit home with me. You can be suspect as an expert and still be an authentic swindler. The culprit was suspect? So much for bad jokes.
Suspect, if that is so, he might turn out to be more perilous than an authentic expert. Unleashing an aberration without the skills to control it seems devious, even by my standards. Speaking of suspect, I doubt he's even human.
If our actions define us, he seems an aberration himself. An aberration himself. What exactly did that mean? What was our definition? Well, I'll try asking Senjogahara. What else can I do? The problem right now is the bigger. I guess there's no point in playing games with you. The problem right now is Karen-chan. We have to find some way to alleviate her symptoms. Apparently, Hanekawa had taken Karen to the hospital first. They had applied the most reasonable measures in the world for a person with a high fever, but it hadn't helped. Even if Hanekawa had lost her memory of it for a while, she had some experience with aberrations and was probably able to deduce that something wasn't quite right. In that sense, Karen was right to choose to call Hanakawa after whatever happened. It was better than calling me at least, like Tsukihi did.
But if not for the former class president, thy sister would have likely never arrived at this kaiki, no?
Well, no. No. When you put it that way, Hanakawa really went around starting fires so she could put them out. She always had the perfect response to any problem. But without her, the problem might have never occurred in the first place. During the incident with Shinobu, Hanakawa saved me. I was grateful to her from the bottom of my heart, but if you thought about it, she was also partly responsible for my encounter with Shinobu. The real deal. Strong. Just, and also strong. The fever medicine isn't doing anything, and strangely, as painful as the fever is, her mind still seems to be lucid. My parents still think she just has one of those summertime colds. Maybe thanks to her everyday behavior, it was anything but exemplary actually, but she could be glib. Shinobu, can you eat Karen's illness? As a vampire, she ate aberrations. That's what she kindly did with Hanakawa's cat. Well, kindly wasn't right in the end. Shinobu Oshino had simply had dinner.
Unfortunately, an illness is merely the effect I could consume the hornet itself, and happily so, but I cannot devour the effects of its sting. Just as I can partake in an apple, but not the human sensation that it tastes delicious. The aberration is now past. The symptoms before us would not be disposed by consuming the hornet now.
I see. That makes sense. Well, did Oshino say anything about how to deal with this Cindersworm bee?
Who knows? I have a feeling he may have, but his vociferations were always so rambling.
Shinobu rinsed the last of the conditioner from her hair and slipped into the tub. It was a standard household bath, not large enough for two, but being child-sized, she managed to just barely squeeze in. It certainly wasn't because I'm short.
Come to think of it, I hadn't taken a bath in some time.
Is that true?
It has been 400 years.
What a time frame. That was incredible. Well, during spring break when I was a vampire, I didn't need to wash either. It was no use applying human standards. Be that as it may, this was my first time taking a bath with Shinobu, obviously. I'd never even dreamed that such a day would come. Was moving the word? Sitting face to face with her like this was also a first over spring break, I'd lacked the mental composure. I stared at Shinobu, moved.
What are ye gawking at? I had no idea you were a genuine pervert who grew liver-veined at the sight of a naked little girl.
No, that's not why.
The way ye ogle me has actually given me some funny notions. No, 'tis nothing. But what if, for instance, I started to shriek so loud that everyone in the house could hear? Such notions.
Ack! Shinobu grinned from ear to ear. What a sick imagination. But she did know that this sort of thing was taboo? Shit, did Oshino teach her? What an unnecessarily elite education.
Yet if ye were to prepare a large tribute of donuts in requisition for my silence, I may be willing to boot a bargain.
Go ahead, scream. You and I are joined at the hip. As long as you're stuck in my shadow, you'll pay for it. At the very least, you'll never have Mr. Donuts again.
Well played. Ye have grown, my master.
Hey, Koyomi, how long are you gonna stay in there? I thought you wanted my story next.
The glass door suddenly burst open, and Tsukihi poked her head in. At some point, she had come downstairs, entered the changing room, and opened the glass door. Now, let's set out the situation. Place, bath, cast, Koyomi Shinobu Tsukihi. Shinobu, blonde, looks like an 8-year-old, are discovered taking a bath together by Tsukihi, little sister. So, straightforward. No need to set anything out. Tsukihi gently closed the glass door and strode away, without saying a word. What was she planning to do? Hell, whatever she was planning, I was lucky she'd walked away. Quick, before she gets back. But not even 10 seconds had passed before Tsukihi returned. She threw the door open with a bang.
Huh? Koyomi, what happened to that girl?
There was no one in the bath other than me. Shinobu had returned to my shadow just in time. What girl? What the hell? We're in the middle of a serious situation here. Don't talk nonsense, you idiot. What kept my voice from cracking as I spoke, of course, was the sight of a kitchen knife in Tsukihi's right hand. A carving knife. Apparently she'd gone to the kitchen. No wonder I was as cool as ice. Despite the hot bath, my guts had frozen over.
Huh? I guess I was seeing things.
You definitely were. There's no flat-chested 8-year-old girl with dazzling blonde hair, translucent white skin, and a pompous, archaic way of speaking here. Move along.
I see.
Tsukihi crossed her arms, baffled. Watch the tip of that knife. By the way, she was holding a lid to a soup pot in her other hand. Good to see she wasn't neglecting defense.
Fine, I guess. But, Koyomi, this is some long bath you're taking. When do you plan on finishing?
Ah, I'll be out soon. Go wait in the living room. Washing Shinobu's hair meant I'd taken twice as long as usual.
Okay.
And would you mind knocking next time?
What? I don't remember you ever asking me to. You think you're so mature now? Just because you've gotten all muscled lately, don't go getting full of yourself.
With that weird rant, Tsukihi exited the changing room. She'd left the glass door open, so I got out of the tub to shut it. When I turned around, Shinobu was back in the tub. Since she was alone this time, she was resting her legs on the opposite rim, elegantly enough.
That was alarming. Quite the hellcat thy sister is.
Give me a break. Hey, I was astonished too, who immediately ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. Thanks to Shinobu quickly slipping back into my shadow, we were able to dodge the bullet. If she tarried another second, we'd have had a bloodbath. At least the cleanup would have been easy. I pushed Shinobu's legs out of the way and stepped back into the cram tub, sitting across from her again.
By the by, I don't believe the brat ever broached this subject, in fact. I imagine he intentionally avoided it.
An impish, perhaps evil expression flitted across Shinobu's face, that gruesome smile of hers.
When will ye expire, I wonder.
What do you mean? I didn't understand what she was asking, or why. When would I die? How would anyone know?
Well, that is to say, ye may now be nearly human, but there is still a bit of vampire left, is there not? What will that mean in terms of thy lifespan?
Ah, I see. I hadn't thought about that. Or rather, I'd been trying not to. I said the rest of my life fairly often, but how many years did the rest actually refer to?
Thy intensity may have reverted to a human's, but thy lifespan may yet be a vampire's, seeing that ye have retained a decent regenerative factor. Since thou will not be prone to illness or injury, an untimely demise seems unlikely, at least. Like a hermit wizard, or like me, ye might persist for 4 centuries, if not 5. Thy paramour friends, juniors and sisters, they will all pass, quenched in death, while we two remain. Whatever bonds ye build, time will see them rust and crumble.
This was no hypothetical musing, nor, certainly, light-hearted banter. She spoke as if she were prophesizing the future. Almost as if she were recounting her own experience. She stretched her legs out in the tub as though to kick my belly, not sated with kicking. Grind, grind. She ground her heel hard. She might call me master, but she was just as domineering as ever.
How does it feel? Even ye must be thought sick at the prospect, yet I have a proposition for thee. Why not slay me and return at last to a human without disclaimer?
Get serious. Your conclusion still stands. I won't forgive you, and you won't forgive me, period. That conversation is already over, there's nothing more to discuss. We live until we die. Take it as my sincerity. Take it as my resolution. Take it as my atonement. If you never forgive me, I'm okay with it. Because I don't want to be forgiven.
As ye wish.
Shinobu laughed. Just as she used to back then, it was a thoroughly gruesome laugh.
Pray then, that I do not cut thy throat while ye sleep, my master. I merely live out my years and have no care. I shall kill time in thy shadow for now, but I do not crave amity. Grow careless, and I shall kill thee.
And so, having gone down a slippery slope, Shinobu and I reconciled. When comparing the 2 Araragi sisters, the Fire Sisters Karen, the enforcer, can't help but stand out. But lest that lead you astray, allow me to dispel any mistaken notion that Tsukihi is less of a handful as a sister. As the earlier incident with the knife indicates, Tsukihi is just as hazardous. Don't find her endearing just because she asked for my help. The truth is that she employs Karen's cockier personality as a clever shield for her own actions. If Tsukihi seems less objectionable, then you have fallen into her trap. In that sense, a show-off like Karen is easier to manage, while Tsukihi, no less of a fool, yet a smart fool, is almost impossible to handle. Take the sunflower bed episode. In a way, she is even more aggressive than Karen. I have another example from the past, the Tsukihi Files, Part 2. Back when Karen and Tsukihi were still in grade school, as was I. Come to think of it, Tsukihi and Sengoku may have been in the same class at the time. If so, Sengoku probably remembers the story as well. Karen got herself into some kind of trouble. This was when they still worked separately, before people took to calling them the Fire Sisters. Whatever trouble this was, Karen couldn't get out of it, and to save her, Tsukihi jumped off the roof of the school building without a second thought. What could result in such a deed? I wondered, too, at the time, but only Karen and Tsukihi know the reason. Actually, considering whom we're discussing, perhaps they don't remember. Whether it was luck or careful planning, Tsukihi happened to land on the canopy of a truck parked below, like in some kung fu movie, sparing her life. Naturally, she broke several bones, and her body is covered with multiple so-called battle wounds, just ordinary scars. In any case, thanks to that leap, her previous reputation as a quiet girl who likes to play indoors vanished like so much mist. What I found most perplexing is that not a single one of her friends stopped coming over to play. At any rate, Tsukihi is extreme, and hiding her extremism is almost second nature to her. The corollary is that she has the ability to throw herself, intentionally and whenever she chooses, into a rage that is no mere bout of hysteria. Intentionally running amok. What could be more dangerous? Her hysteric fits aren't the problem. It's the genuine fury Tsuki's true persona that lies behind them. But back to the matter at hand. Once Shinobu returned to my shadow, I got out of the tub, dried myself off, and headed to the living room with just a towel wrapped around my waist. There was no reason to get dressed just to hear what Tsukihi had to say. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was forgetting something, but I had business to attend to. In the living room, Tsukihi was plopped down on the sofa. The knife, she had apparently returned to the kitchen. Where's the bigger sister?
Miss Hanekawa is looking after her.
Hanekawa? That was what I'd forgotten. What was I doing dressed like this with her under the same roof? I was forfeiting my right to needle kanbauri. Still, even if I want to change, my clothes are in my room. I guess it's fine since she's upstairs. I'd ask Tsukihi to bring me down a set later. There, problem solved. This was the 21st century where you didn't run half naked into a female classmate even in a slapstick comedy. Alright, time to fill me in on the details.
Okay, but first, make me one promise.
You're not in a position to make demands.
I'm your little sister. That's my position.
And in my position as your big brother, I refuse. We glared at each other. We always ended up arguing if we weren't careful.
Fine. I withdraw my request.
Tsukihi folded first after 3 minutes of silence. This was actually rare. Usually, I was the one who backed down. She really had to be feeling out of her depths this time around. In that case, well, what were you going to demand?
That you not get angry with Karen.
Fat chance.
That you can be angry at me but not Karen.
I'll scold you both.
How about you can be angry at Karen but not me?
I'm angry already. Just tell me and get it off your chest.
Is that supposed to sound cool? I thought you promised Miss Hanekawa you wouldn't get angry.
Dummy. That was only for Hanekawa's sake, needless to say. Despite her sullen attitude, Tsukihi turned her drooping eyes my way. This is just my own prejudice. But people with drooping eyes, not just Tsukihi, always look to me like they're plotting something.
Just because you're a genius who's good at everything, that doesn't give you the right to make fun of me and Karen, okay?
How about I agree to put up with all the annoying shit you say? There's your terms. Now talk. How did all of this get started in the first place? I can't even figure that out.
Huh. Even a modern-day Renaissance man like you.
Oh boy. I was already beginning to lose it.
How much did Miss Hanekawa tell you?
She cut to the chase with perfect timing. If this was her way of bargaining, she was actually pretty good at it. I heard most of it, but Hanekawa is an outsider in all of this. I haven't heard any of the inside story yet, and besides, I can't act until I hear what you two have to say. Plus, Hanekawa being Hanekawa, I suspected that she was hiding something because it made Karen and Tsukihi look bad. If Hanekawa wanted, she could easily keep me from noticing that she was holding back. She must have purposely dropped hints to prompt me to ask my sisters. What a stance she was taking. Neutral, but one misstep, and she'd be a friend to neither party. She was like a double agent. She did look up to me, Moshino, and I suppose that was his MO, after all.
Can't act. Huh. Mostly. Karen and I start acting before we've even begun to think. I guess Karen this time around is a good example.
I bet.
Koyomi, is there anything you regret?
Regret? Of course. Is any human being free of it? Though, maybe some people never repented. That was human, too.
You know what? I don't really regret things much.
I bet. You two don't really seem like the type.
But that's exactly why sometimes I regret not having regretted it at the time. So much for that.
She said, before falling silent. She dared to fall silent. Are you trying to get me to wring your neck?
No, that's not it.
Then hurry up and get to the point.
Ah, that reminds me. I have something interesting to tell you.
Interesting.
You know how my catchphrase is, I'm dag nabbit mad? That actually started out as a bit mad for me, so it doesn't mean that I'm really that angry despite how it sounds.
I never even knew that was your catchphrase.
How could you not? I'm dag nabbit mad.
You're clearly more than just a little angry. Color me dagnabbit surprised she wasn't making any sense. Look, no more tricks. Stop trying to change the subject.
I was just testing you.
Then I was testing you for testing me. Now hurry up and get to the point.
Before that, could you tell me about a time you regretted something? I want to hear about you too.
Huh?
It'd be a waste to just tell you. This way it would be like we're sharing secrets. Like late at night during a school trip.
You idiot. But even if I thought said that Tsukihi was an idiot, maybe it was part of my duty as a big brother to humor her childish whims. Besides, I felt like I might blow my fuse if I didn't play along a little. Well, let's see. Something I regret. It's hard to come up with on the spot. There was plenty of material. Too much, really. For instance, Shinobu Oshino, everything relating to her. The vampire stuff. But, even if I were to tell my sisters, now didn't seem like the time. It was a bit too heavy for the situation at hand. Tsukihi seemed to mistake my reluctance for stalling.
There has to be something that...
This is so out of the blue. Be a little more specific about the kind of story you want to hear.
Just something a little embarrassing. Right, like, why, you don't have any friends?
I do now.
Really? How many?
Did you just ask? Get ready to be surprised. Hanakawa was a friend. Kanbaro was my junior, but also a friend. Hachikuji was totally my friend. Sengoku, a friend too. Well, we got along really well, but maybe she didn't think of me that way. Maybe she just felt she had to talk to me because I was her friend's, Tukihi's brother. Yeah, as gratifying as it felt to be called her big brother, I needed to get out of that zone. Still, I wasn't wrong to see her as a friend. Shinjo Gahara was my girlfriend. In terms of this discussion, I didn't see any reason not to count her, though. Well, we got along really well, but maybe she didn't see any reason not to count her, though. Anyway, privately well Savria, and feigned. It's conceded. 5.
You got me, I really am surprised. Poor Koyomi, you're going to die lonely.
Tsukihi seemed taken aback, so much so that her drooping eyes arched up. What a thing to say to your brother. Stock, jerk, sister. Anyway, if you want to know why I didn't have friends before, well, back in the day, I used to think they'd lower my intensity as...
No, I've heard enough embarrassing stuff for one day. I'm sorry for asking.
Don't apologize yet. I haven't said anything embarrassing.
Please, no, don't put yourself through any more of this. Really, it's over.
But it isn't. Why was she trying so hard to stop me? There were tears in her eyes.
Not having any friends is one thing, but you take it to a whole new level. You don't even realize you have a problem. It's too sad.
Was it? Was I just not self-aware?
If you ever get in a car accident and die, I'll make sure the funeral is a family only. Otherwise, everyone will find out how lonely you were.
Excuse me, if I don't find that very comforting.
As for your wedding, well, someone with no friends doesn't have to worry about marriage.
Tsukihi's words were so overwhelming that I couldn't find the words for a comeback. All I could do was shout.
But Koyomi, isn't it actually harder not to make friends?
Thank you for your elite advice. Seriously, that hurt. You know what? I'm not like you guys. I don't want to be part of some in-crowd. I aim to be a mysterious character about whom everybody says, hey, what do you think he does when he's alone?
But the thing is that nobody, let alone everybody, bothers to say that about you. And when he's alone, you're always alone.
Well, who you to talk? How many friends do you have?
Huh? I'm not sure you can call them friends while there's still few enough to count.
Let me have a few of yours, I thought for real.
Isn't friends supposed to be like an uncountable plural?
You have a point.
So, isn't it a little weird to be counting them on your fingers?
You're the one who asked. While we went on like this,
Araragi, we can hear you up on the second floor. It sounds like you're just making small talk, so maybe keep it down a little.
the door swung open and Hanakawa entered the living room. At some point, as I continued to quip, I must have gotten quite loud. Oh, sorry. I will. As I said so. Crap. I remembered. I was sitting on the sofa talking to my sister with nothing but a towel around my waist. Worse, I had gotten so wrapped up in arguing with her that I was leaning forward, and the towel had come askew. In the next instant, I realized 3 things. 1. That even Hanakawa screams on occasion. 2. That her scream is loud enough to fill our home. And 3. That my parents are preternaturally sound sleepers. Let me spend some time on Karen Araragi's story. A word of caution, however. The following is a recreation based solely on a combination of what Hanakawa and Tsukihi told me, and may differ slightly from actual events. In any case, it's not as if the narrative perspective has suddenly shifted, so please relax. While Hitagi Senjogahara still held me captive, Karen Araragi, dressed in her usual sports jersey, visited a certain karaoke place located near her school, Suganoki, 2nd. At this point, she had already pinpointed the culprit behind the charms circulating among junior high students. Technically, Hanakawa had. Grateful for her help as Karen was, by now all the blood had rushed to her head, and that fact was far from her mind. Nor was she thinking about Hanakawa's advice not to do anything until I get there. It had gone in one ear and out the other. Hanakawa admitted her mistake. It was careless of her not to foresee that Karen might go alone. As for me, I blamed Karen for making Hanakawa commit such a blunder. It was just plain wrong to betray Hanakawa's trust like that. Could Tsukihi have stopped Karen before anything happened? No, I doubted it. All Tsukihi ever did was rile Karen up. The brain had no interest in reining in the bronze excesses.
Welcome, young lady. My name is Kaiki, as in Kaizuka, shell heap, and Kareki, withered tree. What might yours be?
I'm Karen Araragi. Take the hill radical and add possible for the first character of Aragi. Good for Rara. And finally tree as in Waki Mashin for Karen, compassion for Karen.
My sister introduced herself, loud and clear, to a man who was dressed in a black suit, as if in mourning, as he sat waiting in a private karaoke room.
An excellent name. You should thank your parents.
The man's ponderous speech was devoid of feeling. Karen began to feel nervous. She summoned her courage quickly, however, and closed the door. The two of them were now alone in a cramped room. Usually, that was a highly risky situation. But Karen didn't think so. She even believed that she had the advantage on such a field. Was she stupid? A rhetorical question.
Well, which are you here for? Do you want me to teach you a charm, or remove one? The former will cost you 10,000 yen. The latter, double that.
Neither. I came here to give you a wallop.
Judging by her words, she was feeling pretty confident. The truth, however, was that she wasn't. She sensed it. She hadn't trained for nothing, wasn't a martial artist for nothing. It was impossible to miss the ominousness that was Diashu Kaiki. There was no telling what he might do to her. Her body sensed it. But at this point, she still didn't think she'd screwed up, and didn't regret coming alone. Because she's stupid. Or if you ask me, fake. She couldn't recognize real danger.
A wallop. Aha. In other words, this is a trap. You send a lying email to lure me here. I see. Very clever, but I have a sneaking suspicion this maneuver was not of your own contriving. Someone as brash as you could not ferret me out.
Yeah.
So whose scheme, no? I suppose you wouldn't tell me. But few are capable of such a feat. Only someone fairly unconventional could force this encounter. To arrive at me, and not the other way around? No kid in junior high has the caliber to pull it off.
The caliber. Well, he had a point. Hanakawa, who'd arrived at him, was in high school, not middle school. But in terms of caliber, she was hardly just a kid in high school. If only she'd been there. It'd have played out very differently, no doubt. Not even Hoshino liked to face Hanakawa one-on-one. Gulp. Karen swallowed a host of words along with her saliva.
You've been causing a lot of trouble. I don't have to
What trouble? I simply sell you children the goods you seek. You alone are accountable for what you do with them.
Accountable?
Karen curled her lip. She wasn't so naive as to find that word choice palatable.
Look who's talking. Get real. You've been wreaking havoc, turning friends against each other. What are you up to?
Up to a profound question.
Keiki nodded quietly. Karen wasn't expecting that response. A petty scoundrel who slinked around spreading rumors of dire curses to bilk middle schoolers out of their money would immediately panic when confronted and fall on his knees, blubbering for forgiveness. That had been her assumption. That was her conception of evil, after all. That evil could be strong and resilient. Was unthinkable?
Unfortunately, I only have a shallow answer to your profound question. It's for money, of course.
Money?
Yes. My objective is to obtain notes issued by the Bank of Japan. Nothing more money is everything in this world. You seem to have come here out of some mistaken sense of justice. A pity, really. You could have easily charged your client 100,000 yen. The lesson you should take home from this is that it never pays to work for free.
Who said anything about a client? I'm not doing this because anybody asked?
I see. Then you should have waited until somebody did.
Even then, I wouldn't take their money.
Ah, youth. I can't say that I'm envious, however.
He seemed more ominous with every passing minute. It was as if their confined quarters were accelerating the process. The air grew thicker and thicker with it.
What's wrong? You're trembling. Araragi.
I'm not trembling. If I look like I am, then I'm rumbling.
How delightful to meet a girl with such cataclysmic sensibilities. Ah, yes, to be young. Regardless, I suggest that. Next time you think before you act. Not doing so halves your charms. The lesson to take home from this case, Araragi, is to think before you feel. Now I've answered your question. I have explained myself, I believe. Your turn. What is your objective?
I already told you. I'm here to wallop you
Is that all?
and to feed you my boot.
Violence?
Force, and I'm gonna put an end to what you're doing. You've got some nerve plying your filthy trade among middle schoolers. You call yourself an adult?
Indeed. And I can't help it if my trade seems filthy. After all, I am a swindler.
Appalled as she was, Karen denounced him again.
Against middle school kids? Aren't you embarrassed?
Not particularly. Children are simply easier targets to deceive. But Araragi, neither punches nor kicks will be enough to stop me. It would be more expedient to come back with cash. My target in this endeavor is 3 million yen. It has taken me over 2 months to lay the foundation for this project. I seek at least that amount in profits for my troubles. However, if you insist, I will not be unreasonable. Pay me half of that sum, and I will gladly depart.
You punk?
That's a rather cheap word.
Keiki smiled a little. What did he find so funny? Was it a sneer? A grimace?
You call yourself human?
My apologies, but that is precisely what I am. Just a human willing to dedicate his life to a precious cause. You fill your heart through good deeds, while I fill my wallet through bad. Are we so different?
What? What?
Exactly, it's not different at all. Perhaps what you're doing makes lives better for some, but I stimulate our capitalist economy by squandering the money I earn, which has the same effect. The lesson for you to take home from this. Just as there is no issue that is immune to justice, there is no issue that is immune to money.
Narke?
My victims would certainly agree with that assessment. They all paid me, which is to say, they recognized the monetary value of our transaction. And this is no less true of you, Araragi. Or did you not pay money for that jersey you are wearing?
I'll leave my jersey out of this?
Karen was incensed. She was certainly silly to feel that way on behalf of her jersey. But that was when she decided that the time for talk was over. When it came to verbal exchanges, without her sister, Karen was at a disadvantage. She could count on one hand the number of times she defeated an older opponent through logic.
Make your decision. Do you want me to punch you, or…
I don't want to be punched, nor kicked. Therefore,
Kaiki moved unexpectedly. For some reason, despite her martial arts training, Karen failed to react. It wasn't as if she'd let her guard down, or wasn't prepared to strike.
I present you with this bee.
He didn't rush her, rather, it seemed as if he were trying to slip his body past Karen, who was still standing by the door to block his way. He wasn't interested in a fight, but rather, flight. He'd been summoned and trapped, ready to do business but called out instead, and cornered. He was turning tail. That was all. Put into words, his move couldn't be shabbier. However, as he slipped past Karen, he extended the index finger of his left hand. He stung with his forefinger. A gentle poke to her forehead.
Ninka!
Karen gasped once, twice, 3 times in surprise. The first gasp was when his finger stabbed her forehead. He could have punched her in the face. If Kaiki had made a fist and swung with all his strength instead of tapping lightly, even Karen with all of her training would not have fared well for the blow. The second gasp was in bewilderment. Why hadn't he punched her? And the third gasp… It was from a sudden wave of nausea that brought her to her knees, fatigue, malaise. And most of all, her body was on fire. The heat. It was burning her. Like she'd hurled herself into a furnace in real flames. Her throat felt so scorched that she couldn't piece together any words. Gazing down at her, Kaiki said,
I see the effect was immediate. You must be very susceptible to belief. The lesson for you to take home from this is to assume that everyone you meet is a swindler. Do not trust so easily. Did you think that I would beg for forgiveness? If so, you are a fool. If you wish me to mend my ways, then bring money. My starting price is now 10 million yen.
Karen could hear him. She was fully conscious, but her body wouldn't listen. Not her arms, legs, or head, nor her eyes, ears, or mouth were functional.
What did you do? What had been done to her? What done? What done? What done? What done? Done? What done? What did you do to me?
Something very bad, and not for free. I expect to be paid.
Keiki reached into Karen's jersey pocket and took out her wallet as she crouched helplessly. She could do nothing but watch as he began rifling through it without permission. No, not even watch. Her vision was hazy.
4,000 yen. That will have to do. Consider my lecture a gratuity. I'll leave the spare change so that you have enough to get home. Oh? You have a bus pass. Then you don't need your change.
Karen heard jingling. Kaiki was scooping up the coins.
That's an additional 627 yen. Not much. This point card doesn't have your name on it. I'll take it too.
Kaiki set Karen's wallet, now practically empty, on the table.
The poison will settle soon, and you should be able to move again. I suggest you use your cell phone to call for help. In the meantime, I'll beat a hasty retreat. Of course, I plan to continue my entrepreneurial efforts. In the future, however, perhaps I should avoid meeting customers directly. Most edifying. Farewell.
With that, he opened the door and stepped outside without a second glance at Karen, who now lay crumpled on the floor. Karen Araragi. Still her stubborn self, it was some time before she called for help. For now, I decided to send Hanakawa on her way before my parents got up. We'd relied on her too much already to call it a helping hand, besides. It was getting to be late. I'd see her home part of the way on my bike. Obviously, riding two to a bike was out of the question. Hanakawa was a stickler for traffic regulations. She'd never allow it unless it was an absolute emergency. Not that I had any ulterior motives. Please, why would I want her to hug me from behind? I'm sorry for all the hassle. I'll take care of it from here.
Yes, of course.
Hanakawa and I made conversation as we walked. Come to think of it, we hadn't talked like this in a while. Though I saw her all the time since she was my tutor. We couldn't chat while I was studying.
It might be better if I stopped lending a hand. It doesn't seem like any good would come of it. I've already done all I can.
Yeah? Probably. It killed me not to be able to contradict her. Hanakawa was just and strong, but maybe too just and too strong. Without due caution, and even with it, she risked uprooting the entire garden.
Araragi, are you angry?
Our gait was almost the same, so we could walk side by side even if I didn't try to match my pace to hers. Angry at what? I asked, pushing my bike beside her.
Come on, I mean, what happened with Karen and Tsukihii? After all, I'm the one who arrived at the culprit. Then that happened to Karen. Are you angry?
If I was, it would be at those two. There's no reason for me to be angry at you. You know what? I'm not angry, but I have a complaint. Next time you decide to help the Fire Sisters, please come talk to me first.
But if I did, you'd get just as angry. Besides, if I want to be friends with Karen and Tsukihii, isn't that my business?
Certainly. Even if it was bad business for me. Well, there was no point in getting into that now. Spilled milk.
Right. Still, as a way of apologizing for keeping everything with Karen and Tsukihii a secret, allow me to present you, sir, with this ticket.
She bashfully drew her student diary from the breast pocket of her uniform. With that ostentatious preamble, she neatly tore a blank page from the diary without using a ruler or folding the edge. How did she do that? And handed it to me. I turned over the page ticket, but there was nothing written on the back either. What the hell? Was it a metaphor or something? The ticket to the future is always blank? Did that make her rem severum? What a moving finale that was. Love and peace. That probably wasn't it, so I asked, "What's this?"
That ticket authorizes the bearer to touch my breast at any time and place at his choosing. Take it.
Hanakawa was even more bashful now. Ack, are you serious? My hand shook as I gripped the piece of paper correction. The deluxe ticket.
Yes, I'm serious. If you ever use it, though, I'll despise you forever.
Then what's the point? I ripped it up and tossed it away. Hanakawa laughed lightheartedly. She was making fun of me. I'm pretty sure she'd never have made a joke like that back in the day. I take back what I said earlier. Or rather, I underline it. She'd changed. Probably for the better.
Would you rather it was a ticket to receive a pair of my underwear at any time and place of your choosing?
Wouldn't you despise me forever if I used that ticket?
Of course.
Then you can keep that one too. How about a ticket to ask for your skirt at any time and place of my choosing?
That ticket doesn't exist.
Hanakawa shot down my proposal. Too bad. I thought it was a pretty clever idea if I do say so myself. Even if a skirt wasn't as electrifying as a pair of panties, maybe I wouldn't be despised, and I'd still obtain a piece of Hanakawa's clothing. And if I had her skirt, I'd also get to see her in her underwear. Whereas if I received the underwear, I'd miss out on that visual pleasure.
Anyway, putting myself aside, Araragi, maybe you shouldn't pick on Karen and Tsukihii so much.
Don't worry, you can rest easy on that count as well. It's not like they were just acting selfishly. I understand that.
You're right. I don't mean to bring up hating people who are like you again. But those two do resemble you.
I suppose you aren't talking about our appearances? Well, we did have very similar facial features. It was easiest to notice in photographs. Incidentally, the quickest way to tell us apart is by looking at the eyes.
Nope. On the inside? Not that I'm one to talk, I suppose.
True. But we're siblings. It's a bit different in your case.
Mr. Oshino, what do you suppose he's doing now?
Hanakawa suddenly brought up Aloha shirts. Who knows? But I'm sure he's looking down at us from wherever he is. I said, treating him as if he were dead. Actually, Oshino being who he is, he'd die rather than watch over us. I bet he'd be able to solve Karen's problem in no time. From what Shinobu tells me, This Cinder's worm bee is a pretty low-level aberration.
Shinobu, Cinder's worm bee.
Ah. I hadn't brought that up yet. I quickly filled Hanekawa in on the progress I made with Shinobu, and what she told me about the aberration responsible for Karen's fever.
I see. The Cinder's worm bee doesn't sound too difficult. It seems minor, at least. But you made up with Shinobu? That's good to hear.
Hanekawa apparently put the pieces together from my simple explanation. She was as smart as ever. Well, it's not bad, I said, glancing down at my shadow. There was no sign of Shinobu at the moment, but I guess that didn't surprise me. Unless I dragged her out, Shinobu would never appear in Hanekawa's presence.
I don't know about taking a bath together.
Why did I tell you that? Why was I always shooting myself in the foot? I had to learn to be more careful about what I said to Hanekawa.
So, Araragi, are you gonna start calling Shinobu by her true name now? The one from back when she was a vampire?
Her true name?
You know, Kishot Isarolarayan Sata and Dagi.
Not exactly. Not exactly. It did sound a bit similar. I was impressed that anyone could couple Shinobu's true name with an Okinawan snack. Hanekawa, the funny woman, Araragi, and Sata Andagi, what a nifty team. I don't think so. She's lost that name forever. Shinobu Ashino is her true name now, and I've decided never to call her by that other name again. Regardless of whether we make up or fall further apart, nothing will steer me from that resolution.
Well, Mr. Arashino only went away because he decided he could leave Shinobu up to you now. Really, I thought you'd make up right after the culture festival.
Then I guess we've been keeping everyone waiting. You could say I was being neglectful.
You're not neglectful. I would know.
Indeed. She seemed to think of me more than anyone else did. Even when she'd lost her memory, she'd kept me in mind. You know everything, and the how. I told her, my heart full.
I don't know everything. I only know what I know.
It was our usual back and forth.
Aragi, do you want to hear a scary story?
A scary story? Like what?
Like, say you look at your phone and there's a missed call from Senjogahara. She's left a message. It says, "Call me back as soon as you get this."
What's so scary about that? I'd just call her back.
The message is dated yesterday.
That's terrifying. Whatever the message's content, I'd be too scared to return the call.
Just kidding. That was just small talk.
As small talk. You startled me. It felt real.
Why would I know if you didn't know about it yourself? You see, I don't really know everything. Anyway, the scary story I wanted to tell is actually about Shinobu. The hardest part of a fight is after making up, make sure you don't forget that.
Believe me, I hadn't. That statement barely merited a nod, which was all the more reason to give one.
All right.
Hanekawa said, satisfied with my response. Not touching on that subject any further, she returned to our previous topic.
About what we were saying. Even if Mr. Oshino were still around, he might have ignored Karen's case. He could be pretty cold when it came to people getting themselves into trouble.
That's a good point. If Oshino did save someone, it was because that person was a victim in every way. Pretty much the only one among us whom he accorded such treatment was Sengoku True. It was possible that he was just a pedo. Even then, he wouldn't help Karen. There's nothing remotely Lolita about her. I mean, she's taller than I am, even if that's shorter than Oshino. You're right. In Karen's case, he'd flat out refuse. Or it'd be, I'm not saving you. You're gonna go and get saved on your own, Missy.
That was really good.
Hanekawa enthusiastically ventured off the subject again. I had no idea how many times I'd been made to hear that line.
Araragi, you never told me you were good at impressions.
I wouldn't say I'm good at them.
Do another one. This time Senjogahara.
No. Why do I have to?
Do it.
No.
Do it.
I couldn't refuse a third request. Not when it was Hanekawa making it, at least. I didn't know why she was insisting, though. My, Araragi, what a lavish waste of time it is tutoring you. If I were to put a price on my loss, it'd probably come to around 200 million yen. You hear me? It takes someone like you 200 million yen.
I don't know if that was a good impression or not, but Senjogahara must have said something terrible to you.
Hanekawa looked aghast. Spot on or not, I guess my impression came off a little too real.
Okay, do Mayoi next.
Let's see. I was Hanakawa's jester, at her beck and call. Stop it, Mr. Araragi. Away with your hands. If you're not moved by that emotional appeal, I'll just have to appeal to the law instead.
Just what have you been doing to Mayoi? Away with your hands.
Me? And my big mouth again. When was I going to stop putting my foot in it? I really did have the intellect of an invertebrate. Hanakawa glared at me. My eyes jerked around like they were doing the underwater backstroke. Sorry, a slip of the tongue.
What did you really mean to say?
Away with your hams. I was now some weirdo who force-fed a little girl. I imagined myself running around, defying Hachikuji's wishes and putting food in her stomach. What a surreal image. I was doomed.
Fine. Do Kanbaro next.
My senior Hanakawa, you are truly a sight to behold. The gods themselves must have come down from the heavens to bless you. I am but a worm at your feet. Heh, having been born into the same era as greatness such as yourself, I swear never to avert my eyes from that fact. You remain, forever, my shining beacon to follow. Wait, I was really proud of that one.
Kamber has never said anything like that to me.
Huh?
I admit she's very polite, but a bombastic phrase like the gods themselves must have doesn't sound like her.
Oops. Kinbara wasn't like that with everyone. I never knew. I thought she used that kind of language with all her respected elders and seniors, but did she only speak that way to me? That was a lot of pressure. What exactly did she see in me that was so worthwhile?
Okay, last one. Do an impression of me.
These breasts are yours. Araragi, feel free to touch them anytime you like.
I never said that.
I got scolded by Miss Hanakawa. I felt like jumping off a bridge. B, but you said something like that.
It wasn't like that at all. And besides, you were a gentleman and ripped that ticket up. When you did, I felt all tingly about you for a second.
What? And the points I scored were now void? What an unfortunate development. An absolute tragedy. So if I hadn't overstepped, I'd have been allowed to fondle your breasts as a reward for doing impressions. Oh, God.
There would have been no such reward.
You know, you shouldn't tease me this way. What if I wind up committing a sex crime thanks to having to repress myself? Take stock, Hanakawa. Only you can prevent that.
You do realize that fantasizing about groping me is already dangerously close to sex crime territory.
Ludicrous. Since when is love a crime?
Leave that word alone.
Hanakawa grew even angrier. I guess I was being pretty inappropriate. Fine then. As a compromise, can I at least fondle your upper arm?
Why my upper arm?
I have heard tell that upper arms feel like breasts.
That's just silly. I mean, I don't think it's even that close.
Oh, really? Then it was just an urban legend. Mere superstition, or wishful thinking.
Yes, they're not similar at all. At least not when I feel my own.
You've been feeling up your breasts?
No, wait. Don't get the wrong idea. I mean like in the bath.
The bath, so when you're completely naked.
I do have to wash my own body. What's so strange about that?
Hanakawa, what were you thinking? You should have said something. You know you can rely on me. I'd totally wash your body for you.
I don't know what to make of you.
Hanakawa seemed flustered. How cute of her.
Okay, how about this?
She nodded. How about what?
If you get into college on your first attempt, I'll let you fondle my breast as much as you like.
I froze. Hanakawa fidgeted bashfully. You're not fooling me this time. You'll let me fondle them as much as I like, but if I do, you'll despise me forever, right?
Nope. In fact, I'll be visibly glad and strike a sexy reaction pose, like Miss Machiko. I'll say Meichingu, just like her.
You, of all people? She'd go that far? With the pose, too? I'd pay 200 million yen to see that.
Your studies have been coming along pretty well so far, but I'm afraid you might start to hit a wall soon. When that time comes, don't you think a reward, or rather, a return on your efforts, would help keep you motivated?
Well, yeah.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help you get into your first pick. My breasts, my upper arms, I'll let you do whatever you like with all the soft parts of my body.
Holy. So, I could even do something like lick your eyeballs. I was awestruck. All the soft parts?
I'm starting to suspect you have some very unusual fetishes.
I do? You mean licking a girl's eyeballs isn't something that every red-blooded guy fantasizes about?
It sounds to me more like something a big-name serial killer might fantasize about. But yeah, I wouldn't mind.
You wouldn't?
But you've got to choose. You can either lick my eyeballs or all the other soft parts of my body. It's one or the other.
Oh, one or the other. Talk about a tough decision. Wait a sec. The answer was obvious. I'm gonna lick your eyeballs.
Understood. But only if you get into your college.
Hanakawa seemed awestruck as she nodded. Honestly, though, did she think my chances of getting in were so low that she had to mortgage her body? Have you ever heard anything so sad? Even for a joke, it was harsh.
Do you feel motivated to study now?
I want to crawl into a hole. She laughed at me too, but as long as Hanakawa was enjoying herself, I didn't really mind. Besides, even if I did get into college, I'd never have the guts to accept my reward. So, we were talking about boobs.
We were talking about Mr. Oshino.
Sorry, a slip of the tongue.
That might catch on, actually. I'll have to give it a try sometime.
Hachikuji was taking the world by storm.
Mr. Oshino probably wouldn't have helped Karen. But what about you, Araragi? Are you going to? Maybe not.
Of course I'll help her, but I won't be doing it for her. And I sure as hell won't be doing it for the sake of justice.
Then what will you be doing it for?
Nothing. Really. That's just the rules. When your little sister is in trouble, a big brother helps her out. Ask anyone. They'll say the same. No, that wasn't entirely true. It wouldn't elicit any such declaration in the first place.
I'm relieved to hear that.
What's that supposed to mean? You thought I'd just abandon my sister?
I thought you might. You're very strict with them. Besides, what happened this time was their fault. That's why maybe you choose not to act.
Of course. Hanakawa was exceptional. She excelled at most everything, more than most anyone. And she had a great personality, fair, and above board. She made the right call whatever the situation. Plus, she always thought of others and never put herself first. However, for instance, the time when I became a vampire, she'd been very solicitous and gone to great lengths for me. At some point, she even made almost unbelievable sacrifices for my sake. But never once did she offer any words of pity, as if to say, the hellish spring break I was going through was, strictly speaking, my own fault. She had comforted me, protected me, and saved me. But she most certainly had not sympathized with me. She had indulged every care I might have need of. But never once had she been indulgent. I'm not as steadfast as you, or Oshino. I'll do what I can, and whatever I can't do, of course, I won't.
I see. Well, I think this is far enough.
Her house was still nowhere in sight, but this was as far I would accompany her. We had our respective domains. The sun had yet to rise, though. The dangers of walking alone at night had little to do with distance. You should ride home. You can borrow my bike.
Are you sure? Because I'd take you up on that.
In place of an answer, I simply turned the handle her way. In that case, thank you. Hanakawa held down her skirt and hoisted herself onto the bike. The length of her skirt gave even Senjogahara a run for her money, so there was nothing to see. Not that I was hoping for anything racy. Just knowing that Hanakawa's straddling the saddle of my bicycle was satisfaction enough. Wait, that's more perverted. Maybe I really do have unusual fetishes. Senjogahara didn't seem to care, though.
I'll return it tomorrow.
Okay.
And make sure you settle this today. You have to start studying for your exams again. Tomorrow, it's great that you're thinking about your responsibilities as a brother. But don't forget about your responsibilities as a high school student.
With that final bit of advice, Hanakawa slowly worked the pedals homeward. She rode, standing up on them. I watched Hanakawa until she disappeared from sight. Then I traced back our route and went straight up to my sister's room. Tsukihi had already fallen asleep, exhausted. She was only 14, an age where it was still hard to stay up all night. She'd probably been forcing herself to stay awake. I'd asked her everything she could tell me. Anyways, she could rest for now. Karen, on the other hand, had been asleep, albeit fitfully, nearly the entire time from when I was released from captivity to when I came home. She didn't seem to be able to sleep now. Between that and the high fever, she had to be suffering. Not wanting to disturb Tsukihi, I moved Karen to my room. I carried her in my arms like a princess and set her down on my bed.
Koyomi, you're making too big a deal out of this. This is why I didn't want to tell you. Everyone should have kept their mouths shut. It's just a little fever. What's the big deal?
Silence. Just be a good patient and do as I say. Are you hungry? How about some canned peaches?
No appetite.
I see. Do you want me to let down your hair?
Run me a bath? I'm all sweaty.
What about your hair?
Do whatever you like.
Karen lifted her head up slightly and tilted her ponytail toward me. It may have seemed like she was just being lazy, but the truth was even such a small movement probably pained her. Earlier when I lifted her up, her body felt like it was burning up. An inferno, the cinderswarm bee. Karen had stopped trying to act tough, I guess, because her condition was out in the open. Not that she'd let go of her last reserves of stubbornness. A bath is out of the question, but I can wipe you down if you like, I said, setting the hairband by the bedside.
Yeah, please. Not that I'm thrilled.
Although her speech was clear, talking seemed like a chore for her. Perhaps her body wasn't responding properly to her commands. Or to her stubbornness, as the case may be.
Tsukihi just wiped me down a little while ago, but I'm already drenched. Though I guess a little while ago is already yesterday.
I guess it is. Well, get undressed, I said, leaving Karen in my room while I went downstairs to the bathroom. I wet a towel and then went to the kitchen to heat the towel up in the microwave. I figured it would be better if the towel was a little warm. When I got back to my room, Karen was still wearing her jersey. Hey, I told you to take off your clothes.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
I'm too tired. Can you take them off for me? Then wipe me down and get me dressed?
Son of a... She just didn't do cute. Where the hell did the image of the little sister in manga and anime come from anyway? I guess it ultimately had to do with the observer. Anything could be cute if you were ready to see it that way. Maybe there was a demand for Karen's recalcitrance too. For my own part, I'd rather pass. But I could be nice if she was sick. I did as Karen said, removing her jersey and rolling up the t-shirt she was wearing underneath. Although her body wasn't tempered to the same aesthetic level as Kanbaru's, I never dreamed I would use the word aesthetic in conjunction with Kanbaro. It was still quite toned. I began wiping her down carefully.
Angle, my own brother is seeing me with no clothes on / how embarrassing.
Why are you talking in haiku?
To hide how embarrassed I am.
Says the girl who dances around the house half naked after a shower.
That's not dancing. I was doing aerobics.
Well, you can dance by yourself during the anime ending.
If I'm gonna dance, it won't be just for the ending song. It'll be the whole 30 minutes.
That might be a little too avant-garde. The funny thing is, I was completely fine seeing my sister naked. It affected me even less than when Shinobu had been naked. I guess when your genes are so similar, the brain's response just shuts off subconsciously. If not, siblings probably wouldn't be able to live under the same roof.
Ugh.
Karen groaned again. What a crybaby. I'm wiping your back. Roll over.
I can't, it's too hard. Roll me over.
Sec. After I was finished with her back, I stripped her lower half and wiped her legs down. Obviously, I avoided the inside of her underpants. Either Tsukihi or my mom would have to take care of that.
Damn, I can't believe I screwed up like this.
Huh?
Even I know that being strong is more important than being right. You didn't have to tell me that, but it's not like I can just snap my fingers and become strong all of a sudden.
I don't know if it was the hot towel, but I was starting to feel like a massage therapist.
What am I supposed to do? Ignore a justice I see until I become stronger. Justice runs in my veins, and I can't stand by while evil is afoot.
From where I'm standing, it seems like you just want to cause a ruckus.
Yeah, well, from where you're standing, it's all make-believe, but that guy doesn't play by the rules.
By that guy, she meant Dishu Kaiki, the ominous man in the suit, dressed as if in mourning.
It doesn't make sense. How can someone just make me sick? It's weird. It isn't right. Like something out of a melodrama.
A melodrama? I wasn't sure what she meant by that. I continued wiping the underside of her foot as I spoke. Anyway, I'll figure something out. You forget about all this and just rest easy. Leave the rest to me.
I can't rest easy. The
The truth is, I'm in a lot of...
Well then, rest hard. Either way, there's no need to worry. I'll have you as good as new in no time.
How? The medicine isn't working.
I still hadn't told her about aberrations. Apparently, Hanekawa had managed to finesse that part too. It was as I had discussed with Hachikuji Sengoku and Kanbar. Better not to speak of that stuff if you didn't have to. About aberrations or about Shinobu or Dishu Kaiki. If this could be settled without getting Karen and Suki involved any further, then it was better not to involve them. They were responsible for what had happened, sure, but they weren't accountable. Not in my mind, they were still children. They were fakesies to skindaplations of the better not to find us.
From where you're standing, this is all make-believe. Still...
Karen spooled back our conversation. Maybe she wasn't talking to me, and it was more like the fever speaking.
Deishu Kaki, you heard from Suki, didn't you? Why he's pushing this mumbo-jumbo occult stuff, those charms, to middle schoolers?
Yeah, for money.
He instills malice and anxiety and then takes advantage of the situation to trick people out of their money. In exchange for nothing. 10 thou, 20 thou. That's what he said. He's taking that kind of money from middle school kids. I thought he'd feel ashamed when I called him out for it, but you know what he said? He wasn't even shy about it. Children are easier to deceive.
Desika Kiki, swindler, fake expert. Karen spit her words out with contempt. Easier to deceive.
Suki-Yi's friend, that girl Sengoku, she was really tight-lipped about it, but I got the impression you helped her out a lot. But she was lucky. There are other kids who went to Kaiki for help, not knowing he was the source of the rumors and got arrested for shoplifting trying to steal the money he asked for. Could you really forgive something like that? Could you look one of those kids in the eye and say, sorry, can't help you, I'm not strong enough yet?
Karen said that as if one of those kids were in front of her right now. As if here was where she had to stand tall and pass her test.
Kaki said that money is everything. That sounds like something some villain in a manga would say. I never thought I'd hear a line like that in real life. I mean, money is important, but there's lots of other important things as well, like love.
Wow, we agreed. My sister and I actually agreed on something. Money isn't everything, it's just almost everything. Never mind, I guess we didn't agree after all.
Kayomi, Sukihi and I are doing what we believe in. We're not going to learn the hard way or whatever. If the same thing happens again, we'll do the exact same thing, no two questions about it. I may have lost in terms of the outcome, but I haven't lost in spirit. Next time I'll win. I won't give up until I win, and even if I'm not going to win, I still won't give up. It's not the outcome that matters, right?
You mean you may have lost the match, but you've won our hearts? That doesn't sound like much of a warrior's code.
That's not quite it, but I'll say it's far from it.
So, it's totally not it.
You can lose the match and lose people's hearts, but if you don't lose to yourself, then you haven't really lost. There, that's my warrior's code.
Okay, but as long as you follow that motto, people around you are going to suffer. That's why you never grow up. If that was how she felt, then I'd use her own words against her.
I'm already grown up. Just look at these tits.
What am I supposed to see? They're not even half as big as Hanekawa's.
What? Are hers really that?
Yes, they were. She looked much more slender in her clothes than she was. Hanekawa's the real deal. I don't think I need to tell you that, though. Honestly, for my own part, I don't really like you guys, and Hanekawa getting friendly, but it's a good opportunity. You could learn a lot from her. If you don't want me to grow up without you, you'd better start growing up too. I know I had. Since meeting Hanekawa, I'd changed.
I never said that.
Her opinion is your opinion. She's the strategist.
True.
Karen began squirming and groaning. Don't move. It's hard to wipe you down.
That's enough. Already, I feel much better now.
I've come this far. There's no need to get shy now.
Well, don't blame me if you get sick too.
Huh? If I get sick too? My hand froze mid-wipe. I had an idea. Oh, one sec, I said, setting aside the almost cold towel and stepping out into the hallway. Sukihi was asleep, and it would probably still be a little while until my parents woke up. But just to be safe, I headed to the downstairs bathroom and locked the door behind me. Shinobu. I called to my shadow.
What now?
She hadn't emerged. It was just her voice, but that was fine. It was all I needed.
'Tis nearly time for my slumber. I may have lost my pith, but I am still a creature of the night, and I hate to be roused as much as ever.
Okay, then let me ask you just one thing. My sister's illness, is there a way to give it to me? It was the idea that Karen's words had put in my head.
Herm?
I say illness, but basically it's an aberration's poison. It was deposited in her willfully in the first place. In that case, couldn't we transpose the toxin one more time, from her to me?
You wish to shoulder her illness?
Shinobu seemed to be considering the matter in my shadow. Perhaps she was thinking of what Oshino had told her, even if she couldn't fiddle around in her brain anymore.
Well, thy constitution is still partially vampiric. 'Tis unlikely the rankle of a creature such as the Cindersworm bee would raise your temperature very much.
Right? Vampires belonged on a different plane from other aberrations and stood virtually unopposed. Unless it was something like Hanakawa's cat. In fact, even the cat had only proved formidable thanks to targeting an exceptional host, namely Hanakawa. Regardless of what type of aberration the Cindersworm bee was, it basically couldn't hold a candle to the might of a vampire. A bee sting did little against a demon.
In that regard, absorbing the Cindersworm bee's rankle is an excellent idea. If I cannot eat the poison, why not absorb it? Thy notion has merit, but since we do not know by what means Kaiki inflicted the poison upon thy sister, we shall need to rely upon a method of our own to transfer it.
What? You mean you know a way?
I may, yet, frankly, I do not recommend it. Well, it is not that I would not be. I merely balk at the thought.
You mean it's risky? I understand.
No, not risky exactly. It may be no more than an urban legend. I believe the brat was talking about something entirely unrelated when he mentioned it.
You don't seem very enthusiastic about this. It's not like you. I'll do it, whatever it is, as long as it's not something weird like sucking her blood.
Like sucking her blood? Well, who is to say? I know not whether this is something you would consider acceptable.
I have no idea what it is, but I'm pretty sure I'll find it acceptable. If we don't do something, the Cindersworm bee could kill her, right? And even if it won't kill her, if there's some way to ease her suffering, we should try, whatever it is.
True.
Agreed Shinobu. However, she still seemed hesitant. I had to badger her until she said, "Fine, do as you like," and finally shared the method. I returned to my room.
Koyomi, if you were going to the bathroom or wherever, you could have at least dressed me first.
Karen said as soon as I entered the room. Karen-chan. I called to her, ignoring her. Very justified complaint. Feeling in a rush due to the circumstances I'd accidentally uttered her name. But that was that. I followed up with, "We're going to kiss now." In the end, I wasn't able to absorb all of the aberrations, the Cindersworm bee's poison, maybe half or even just a third, that was all, which was unfortunate, I guess. But at least it was enough to lower Karen's fever somewhat from over 104 degrees down to about 101. That might not seem like much, but it made a huge difference for her. In fact, she was feeling so much better that, up until a moment ago, she had been making a big ruckus.
My first kiss! I can't believe you stole my first kiss! I was saving it for Mizudori.
By the way, Mizudori is Karen's boyfriend. That's his last name. I haven't met him yet and don't know his first, but apparently he's a cute younger boy. While we're on the topic, Tsukihi's boyfriend is named Rosukuzawa. I don't know his first name either, nor have I come face to face with him. Supposedly he's a dashing older boy, the polar opposite of Mizudori, so I guess the two sisters have very different tastes in men. In any case, Karen had worn herself out and was asleep. I guess the treatment had its intended effect.
Spreading a cold through a kiss, or giving a cold to someone else to get better does not even rise to the level of an urban legend. But be it mouth to mouth or indirect kissing, it takes a charm to beat a charm. Thou art less a vampire than a demon. Or should I say, a devil.
Afterwards, Shinobu said, as though she was fed up. For the first time in ages, I'd made my sister cry. It served her right, the idiot. It was the morning of July 30th. After putting Karen to sleep, I waited until it was past 9 and got on my way, leaving a note for Tsukihi to stay put at home with Karen for today. Since I'd lent my bike to Hanakawa, I walked. Destination Senjogahara's house. Along the way, I spotted Hachikuji. As usual, she was plodding along with a massive knapsack strapped to her back. What did she cram into that bag anyways? I like to imagine that it was full of heavy dumbbells, and she was using it to beef up. In any case, I must have really been in luck to run into her 2 days in a row. Probability-wise, that seemed even less likely than running into her twice on the same day. I'm not sure I could keep treating her as a lucky charm though. After all, I'd run into some pretty bad luck the day before. In any case, was this area actually part of her territory too? Unless she was branching out? Was she making a map of the neighborhood or something? Who did she think she was? Tadadaka Ino. Hey, Hachikuji? I just greeted her normally. I'd learned my lesson the hard way with Kanbari. Hachikuji had a very dissatisfied look on her face. H. Hachikuji?
Oh, it's Mr. Araragi!
Come on, don't pronounce it right. What happened to our routine? Don't just change things up.
Mr. Araragi, that was such a boring hello. You've really come down in the world? Did something happen?
Why so maligning? The look in her eyes. It wasn't cold so much as incisive. Even Senjogahara didn't glare at me like that. I thought you didn't like it when I harassed you.
I was signaling for you to step it up. How could you stop just because you were told to? Step? You fumbled a great pass!
That was an overly complex cue.
I feel like I'd been told a long joke with a flub punchline.
Is it that bad?
Besides, maligning is too fancy a word for you. Maybe if you misspelled it.
So, malinging.
An easy way to remember how to spell that one, associated with the malignant.
Hachikuji gave me a gratuitous lesson. Then she turned her back to me forlornly and began trudging away, leaving me in her wake. Well, she wasn't going to. Hey, Hachikuji, wait.
Go away! The friend I knew is dead and gone. When you take the sexual harassment out of Araragi, all that's left are the fleas.
There were no fleas to begin with.
I don't even want to look at you anymore. Get lost!
Don't say that. Senjogahara has at least 100 times, but when you do, I really want to disappear.
Strange, I told you to scram, and yet you're still here. Can't you even manage that much?
I wish I could start over from my last save. I pulled up beside her. Although Hachikuji still looked dissatisfied, it didn't seem like she was doing a bit. The girl was hard to understand at times. She finally sighed after a while and turned to face me.
So what happened? You certainly seem to be in serious mode today, unlike yesterday.
Serious mode. Yeah, I guess. The day before, I'd been heading to Sengoku's house just to hang out. Senjogahara was scarier. Who knew what she'd been up to after we parted? A lot happened.
I might press you for details.
Hachikuji nodded. She could be considerate when it came to boundaries, like no other grade schooler.
But Mr. Araragi, I am a little worried that you look a bit under the weather.
Huh? I do? Huh? I do?
Are you feeling all right?
Although I'd absorbed half of Karen's illness, I didn't think it had affected me enough to be visible. But maybe since this was Hachikuji, she could tell? Apparently it's called the Cindersworm bee. It's a very different kind of aberration than your snail. Still, it's a pain in the neck.
DC, what a bother. But I'm sure you'll be fine. You've dealt with these things plenty of times.
D, hope you're right. Nothing seems to be going smoothly so far. Not that I ever handled it smoothly before. I always mess up. Gripping to someone younger than me seemed lame, but I'd have pretty much no one else's ear on the topic, so I went ahead. You see, my sisters are such idiots.
Even bigger idiots than you, Mr. Araragi.
Hey, what's with that premise? Yup, this was how it ought to be. It was too stupid to discuss seriously. What they say is right. And I want to respect that. But they're too simple-minded. What they want to do is right, but they don't know how to go about it. At least, that's how I see it.
Isn't that what people always say about you, Mr. Araragi?
Harm? True. Oshino and Hanekawa criticized me in similar ways. In my case, I tended to be told that a pretty solution wasn't always right, but it meant essentially the same thing.
Plus, if you weren't that kind of person, I wouldn't be here strolling down the street so fancy-free. Maybe there are a lot of people out there who were helped by your sisters, too.
There were. A lot of them. No doubt. How else to make sense of my sister's ridiculous reputation? Their charisma skill was rooted in results at the very least. The pair were more popular than I was. Loved even. What more could you ask for? Wasn't that sufficient proof? Hachikuji made a persuasive point. And yet, they're such brats, they don't listen to anyone. I have to try to wrap this all up while they're still stuck at home, behaving. The fact that the aberration was this Cindersworm bee was in a sense a lucky break. It was forcing Karen to stay at home and be mature. Mature? Hachikuji. When does a person grow up?
Not while they're still asking. The age of majority in Japan is 20 now, but it depends on the times. Back in the day, girls used to get married when they were fairly young. It was like all men were pedophiles.
That's unsettling.
All the warlords were into BL.
That's even more unsettling.
The biggest historical battles we're all just lovers spats, maybe? Social studies textbooks become so much more interesting then.
Don't even want to think about that.
Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu were in a love triangle.
That totally subverts Japanese history. I suppose that was one aspect of war. Neither society nor the world ever changed. What a poignant reality.
Subverted or reversed? Reality is reality. They call it the Warring States period, but that should be roaring instead.
Don't know. I'm not sure everyone would agree that it was so great.
Well, it depends on what your idea of paradise is. Me, I'd picture a drink bar with free refills.
Why? Such an intense longing for free refills. Not that it didn't make any sense. When I was a kid, it did offer its sense of wonder.
Mr. Araragi, what do you picture when you hear the word paradise?
Don't know. Clouds and angels? TF I had to say, then Hanakawa.
Tease that because of all the obscene thoughts you're harboring for her?
They're not all obscene. What a rude thing to say. In any case, that was my image. It was Senjogahara, by the way, when I pictured hell. That kind of went without saying. Hell hath no fury like her every whim.
Some people would say you're a grown-up and you started working, but you can grow up without ever working.
You mean growing up is just part of getting older?
By the way, do you have any vocation in mind, Mr. Araragi?
Sorry, I haven't thought that far ahead.
That doesn't sound very mature.
Maybe so. A job where I hold Hanekawa's breasts so they don't spill out would be great.
How did you ever say that with a straight face?
Seriously? Who the hell invented the bra? I don't know how much money the bastards made, but thanks to them I'm out of a job.
Please calm down. That career option never existed in the first place.
How about what we said once? A job fondling your breasts all day until they get bigger would be quite acceptable to me.
T would fear for their shape. Besides, are you even aware that your fantasies are leaking out?
Uh-oh.
Zip your lips?
They don't come with such a convenient feature.
Then staple your lips?
Tom having a flashback.
By the way, after we said goodbye yesterday, I passed a group of freshman girls from your school who must have stayed behind for extracurricular activities. They were gossiping about it.
About what?
Apparently there's a rumor that a third year called Araragi can make your breasts super big by fondling them.
I think I knew who might have started that rumor. A certain second year who ran like the wind. Talk about a nasty surprise. I'm sure she meant well, but it was plain harassment. Now I was scared to go back to school.
Mr. Araragi, returning to our discussion, I heard this joke.
What kind of joke?
A bachelor is asked by his mother, "When are you going to get married?" Very soon, he promises. I'm just waiting for the girl to turn 16.
That's not funny. What a point to return to. Why were we discussing that anyway? That was just going off topic. Well, maybe there's no point telling girls in junior high to grow up. Age-wise, they're kids, after all. Unlike Shinobu. Glancing down at my shadow where she was probably asleep, I had that thought.
That's it. That's it! How can middle schoolers not be kids? The problem is not knowing that they're children.
Ooh. Woo. Woo. Achikuji was onto something. She could be very good at catching things that I missed. Maybe that was it, and the issue was self-awareness.
Still, it might be adults who don't see themselves as adults.
Yeah, grown-ups who think of themselves as kids are the worst. Not that they were uncommon. A few of my teachers fit that bill. By the way, Hachikuji, which do you consider yourself?
T had the body of a child and the mind of an adult.
Like Detective Conan?
Speaking of detectives,
Hachikuji was about to go off topic again, but I didn't stop her. We were getting close to Senjogahara's place, but we had enough time for one more round.
lately standard mysteries have been getting popular again, as opposed to newfangled ones.
You actually know and care about that sort of trend. Well, fine. Standard. Standard or not, isn't the whole mystery genre in decline?
What are you saying? Even if mystery novels aren't big anymore, the mystery genre is going strong. Procedural dramas, mystery bingo, whodunit games, the category is alive and kicking. All of those are pretty popular.
That was true. On TV, mysteries regularly cornered primetime. Even the repeats were on round the clock. Why was it that only the novels had gone out of style? It had become like a traditional art form. IT guess people just don't read as much as they used to, but then cell phone novels are all the rage. Though I wasn't very good at using mine and hadn't read any. Still, I haven't heard anything about mysteries being mainstream in that world.
They say the number of words people will read in their lifetimes is set, however many hundreds of millions that is.
Oh yeah? Yet another bit of odd trivia. You had to wonder just what kind of books Hachikuji read.
And so, exhausting that amount through emails and the internet, people read listened.
Do you think that's true?
T, highly doubt it. Mystery novels aren't popular simply because they're getting trite.
That your own view this time?
What? One might upset the trite. They're trite.
That wasn't so clever that you should be laughing hard at your own pun.
T was different back in the day, but you can't compete with the kinds of images and directing you get in other media. The main weapon left in novels is identification. Being a novel and not relying on visuals makes it easier to step into someone's shoes. But you don't want to be identifying with any character in a mystery. The whole selling point is that you never know whom to trust.
You may be onto something.
Which is why mystery novels are now a minor genre. They're even less popular than Hanafuda.
Huh? Now that was a comparison that piqued my interest. You know how to play Hanafuda? Hachikuji nodded.
Because of my name, I always like the Hachi variants.
At last, I found you, my soulmate. I wanted to play right now. Ah, but we don't have a deck. Damn it. When I try to play Hanafuda, no one knows the rules, and when I find someone who does, no one has a deck.
Well, I can't imagine anyone happening to have one on hand.
No, from now on, I'm going to carry one with me. The next time I run into you, weak-limbed speed-a talisman.
Mr. Araragi, for some reason you seem to be under the impression that you mustn't meet me except by accident. But we could just make an appointment, you know? Why not pick a date in place?
That's so formal, I'd feel shy.
Are you actually blushing?
Hachikuji shrank back, unmistakably, as the tide ebbs. And no, it was an expression of my love for Hanafuda, not Hachikuji. Wait, did I love Hanafuda that much? I couldn't help but suspect that a total dearth of opponents was inflating my interest in the game. The only combo anyone seemed to know was Bored Deer Butterfly. I bet Sengoku doesn't even know that the game exists. Why can't somebody put out a hit manga about Hanafuda?
Aren't you being a little overdramatic? Plenty of people know how to play.
Maybe, but I never seem to meet any of them.
I've heard that it's relatively popular in Okinawa.
Is that true?
Only relatively speaking, though.
TC? It wouldn't be worth moving there then.
Are you really that crazy for it? Well, I guess it rivals Mahjong in having a strong gambling element.
Gambling element?
Which is also to say a strong affinity with illegality.
Rah. I see. Recalling the Washizu Mahjong tiles that I had found in the same area as the Hanafuda deck in Kanbar's room, I gave a deep nod. It was quite true. In fact, even for regular playing cards, young people of my generation did shy away from poker, blackjack, baccarat, and other typical gambling games. The temperature difference between people who understood the game and those who didn't was severe, so to speak. Gambling element. Anyway, what were we talking about Hachihachichi?
Where did that one temple go?
Oops, I didn't even notice. Anyway, what were we talking about, Hachikuji?
About how much you love panties.
I'm pretty sure that was yesterday.
Not panties. Then do you mean mysteries?
Don't pair those two things. Anyway, you were saying that mystery novels aren't big anymore, but that the genre itself is going strong and standard setups are on the rise. But I'm not sure exactly what you mean by a non-standard mystery.
TF, the catchphrase is, the killer is not in this room. Then it probably isn't standard.
Definitely not.
How about this case is clothes?
That would be pretty niche.
Quadrat.
The demonstration is intentionally lacking. When you went that far, a certain catchphrase was inevitable. It's no mystery. Anyway, Hachikuji, we still haven't gotten to your point, have we?
No. If it's a mystery, someone gets killed, and the killer is revealed, but in a lot of the cases, the culprit ends up having a really sad motive. Something about that feels like it lacks closure. You're left not quite sure who was the bad guy. The reality is like that, too, and I should find that interesting.
Well, dramatically. When a good person gets killed and the killer is a bad person, we don't have much of a twist, though, with period pieces and such. That actually works better. So, I don't know. Still, no matter who the villain is, he'd have some reason or other, wouldn't he? Deishu Kaiki. His reason was money. Money, the be-all and end-all. Oh, sorry, Hacha Hacha Kichi.
You're forgetting a temple again.
Sorry, Hakishi Chichi.
Is a temple disappearing every time you say my name?
Hachirokuji. We're almost at Senjogahara's house, so I'm going to have to say goodbye.
Right, yes. Right, your friend doesn't like me very much.
Hachikuji halted and turned around. She had no destination in the first place.
Mr. Araragi, farewell.
You too. To pay the gouts. We waved at each other and parted ways. Thank goodness I'd run into Hachikuji to make the trip interesting. I thought idly as I watched her receding figure, however. At the time I didn't know what would beset the amiable girl named Mayoi Hachikuji. No, I mean just in the sense of actually not knowing. Hachikuji was a mystery, in her own way. What did she do while she was alone? Or rather, when she wasn't out for a walk? The Wood and Mortar Tamakura Apartments, Room 201. Hitagi Senjogahara's place of residence. I hadn't called in advance, deliberately showing up without an appointment. Proof of my resolve. There was no fancy device like an intercom for these apartments. I made a backward fist and knocked on Senjogahara's door. No answer. I knocked. Again. Still no answer. This time, I gave the knob a try. It was unlocked. How careless could you be? While Hitagi Senjogahara was a wall of iron when it came to her up-close and personal defenses, in general, her long-range defense had more holes than a block of Swiss cheese. As for the woman herself, she was sitting in the modest apartment room sharpening pencils. She seemed to be absorbed in the task, a state of perfect zen. She didn't even notice me. Obviously, there was nothing particularly odd about a high school senior sharpening pencils. It was a normal part of keeping one's stationery in order. But a glance at the massive pile, of about 100, next to the newspaper she was working over, made it clear that something was amiss. If I were to make a comparison, she resembled a warrior preparing her weapons for battle. Miss Gahara?
Araragi. Want to know?
I was wrong about not having been noticed. She just hadn't bothered to look in my direction. My visit, it seemed, was less pressing than sharpening those pencils.
Still gazing at the tip of the one she'd just sharpened, she said, "If 100 sharpened pencils that you happen to have on you impaled a third party, that would qualify as an accident, yes?"
Tech would be an incident. And how? The local news section would be all over the pencil murder.
Then I'll use that very sheet of newspaper to sharpen my next batch of pencils.
Calm down, Senjogahara. Despite the smug look on your face, that wasn't such a clever joke. Don't waste your precious store of smiles on it. You only crack a smile an average of 5 times per day. The box cutter, probably the same one she'd thrust into my mouth, had turned pitch black with lead. She turned it slowly in my direction, the blade glittering in the light. A black sheen.
Take your shoes off and come in, Araragi. Don't worry, I won't kidnap you again.
All right. Closing the door behind me and turning the lock, which Senjogahara had left undone, I took off my shoes and stepped into the Tommy room. Since it was only 6 mats, I didn't even have to take a look around to see that she was alone. Where's your dad? Senjogahara lived together with her father, just the two of them. He didn't seem to be in the bathroom. I'd overhear the water running, so he wasn't home. He was a bigwig at some foreign multinational. I already knew he hardly made it home most days, but today was Sunday. I guess with the massive debt he was shouldering, weekends were not a luxury he could afford.
My father's at work. He's on site right now. Well, posted overseas. But the timing works out great. I wouldn't want to kidnap him too.
But she'd kidnap her boyfriend. You latent criminal. Well, I guess you became an actual criminal the moment you kidnapped me. Anyway, if I asked you why you were arming yourself, would you tell me?
Ask away. Like they say, there's no such thing as a stupid question, and it would be more stupid to be Araragi.
Don't paste my name into an adage. Especially not like that. It's stupid to be Araragi.
T was just telling you not to be shy.
T can tell you're lying. Anyway, I sat across from Senjogahara on the other side of the newspaper. It was piled high with pencil shavings.
I'm going to settle things with Kaiki. Since you refused my protection, the only option remaining is to go on the offensive.
Abducting isn't protecting. Well, I did know that she'd been protecting me, in her own way, And I might have never refused if it hadn't been for Tsukihi's text. If that's what it was, though, want to give kidnapping another try?
T already told you that I wouldn't do it again.
All right. By the way, I talked to Hanakawa after that.
Huh? Did Mistress Hay know? Did she say anything about me?
Were you just about to call her Mistress Hanakawa?
T, I wasn't. There is no bullying at our school.
You're being bullied? You? Well, the model student prone to illness facade that camouflaged Senjo Gahara's wall of iron worked on our other classmates but no longer meant anything to Hanakawa. She wouldn't just be understanding with Senjo Gahara all the time. Hanakawa was a good person, but that meant she was willing to forgive wickedness, not overlook it. Senjo Gahara, you've shown your true colors, so she's going to get on your case. But don't call it bullying. It makes her look bad.
When did I ever call it that? It's because I like doing it that she lets me polish our shoes every morning.
Why are you so servile with her? 1/100th. Show me just 1/100th of that deference. Anyway, so, you're going to meet Kaiki?
Yes, but don't worry. I plan to settle this with words, if at all possible.
Says the lady with the full arsenal of pencils. Thank goodness I showed up. But Senjo Gahara? Does that mean you know where Kaiki is?
IT had a business card. He gave this to me a long time ago. It's a miracle that I hadn't torn it up and thrown it away. It's only got a cell phone number listed. But luckily, he still uses the same number.
Let me see that for a second. It was a simple business card. The only things on it were the name Daishu Kaiki, its reading in phonetic letters, and, as Senjo Gahara said, a cell phone number. Wait, no. There was one more thing, a job title. Ghostbuster. Senjo Gahara, I know it's one of the worst things I could say, but wasn't it your own fault if you were taken in by this?
That's the trap. It's hard to believe that someone who'd go for such a silly title is actually a fraud.
Maybe. True, I actually heard somewhere that one of the techniques used in cons was to intentionally come off as phony. Appearing overtly phony made the target assume the opposite, since anything that sounded so fake couldn't actually be fake. Usually it would just arouse suspicion, but maybe the tactic did work better on overcautious marks.
If you're going to say that, Mr. Orsino was about as suspicious as they come. Compared to him, even Keiki is a respectable adult.
Yeah, a Hawaiian shirt versus a suit? They did have a few points in common. It's not like Oshino was just volunteering his services either. In fact, in my case, he asked for 5 million yen. Not that I thought the price was high, considering. So then, Senjo Gahara, you called this number and spoke to Kaiki?
Yes. He doesn't seem to have changed at all, dreary as a swamp. I haven't just been twiddling my thumbs since your release. Sure, I was in a bit of a funk after Hanakawa scolded me, but that only lasted for about 5 hours.
5 hours? Senjo Gahara could be skittish about the strangest things. Hanakawa really was her nemesis. Having been lured out by Karen's fake message, which actually must have been Hanakawa's doing, Kaiki would be wary of using his cell phone for business purposes. But it seemed he hadn't disposed of the phone itself so far. Taking into account the age of the business card as well, it was more than mere luck but a miracle that Senjo Gahara had been able to contact him. But did the miracle favor us? Then by my calculation, you made the call not long before I got here.
Very astute. Not everyone can perform single-digit addition in their heads.
Do you have to make fun of me all the time?
When does it get difficult for you? Multiplication?
I'm good all around at math.
Well, are you bragging?
NKK. Maybe I was. So?
Ha! Says the man who latched onto Fleming's left-hand rule so hard he didn't even know Fleming's right-hand rule existed until just the other day. You brag? That's preposterous. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use such a big word.
Hey, I might be especially bad at physics and modern Japanese, but what's so wrong with knowing what I'm good at?
Yes, of course. You're blameless, and I'm always to blame.
But you are. You totally are.
And? What did you want to ask me based on the conclusion you derived from your differential and integral calculus? You came here motivated by a mathematical understanding that the roots are inverse and absolute, didn't you?
There's something seriously wrong with you as a person.
As a person, perhaps, but not as a beautiful woman.
As anything. Geez, sometimes I had to wonder why I was dating her. I loved her, didn't I? Remind me, what exactly about her? Since she'd prompted me, I seized the opportunity and did ask her. Is it all right if I come with you? If you're going to settle things with Kaki, I want to join you.
I'm willing to pretend I didn't hear anything. This is what they mean by a dog that licks the hand that feeds it.
No, I should be angry that you're comparing your boyfriend to a dog, but I'm such a comedian I can't help but quip. That just means it likes you. Not even biting the hand that feeds it. I was the one getting licked here. How confusing.
If you don't want to die, take back what you just said.
TT's my sister Keiki has done something to her. He hit her with some kind of weird aberration, the Cinderswarm bee, and she's got a burning fever. I managed to neutralize it somewhat by absorbing half of it, but there's no saying how it might progress.
You absorbed half of the aberration. Are you all right?
Senjogahara's face remained expressionless, but she seemed to be showing genuine concern for my well-being. One of the occasional displays of humanity from my girlfriend. I've rarely seen her direct such feelings to anyone but myself. It was a limited offer humanity. Conditions may apply. Yeah, thanks to my vampiric healing. I wouldn't say I'm in tip-top shape, though. I felt a little sluggish hot. I was hardly burning up, but I might be standing too close to a heated brand.
TC, then it's too late for you to turn back. Not that I suppose you would if your sister is involved.
TT's not just my sister.
Huh?
You are, too. You were about to do something stupid for my sake like face Kaiki alone. Right?
TT, it's not only for your sake. Keiki is just something that I need to settle.
Senjogahara had once lost something dear to her.
T can't forget about it. Can't just leave it alone, I need to bring it to an end. If I don't, I won't be able to move forward. So much so that if Kaiki hadn't returned to this town, I'd have gone looking for him instead.
It's that important to you? Wasn't it supposed to be trivial?
T was just sundering.
Sundering? Now it was even functioning as a verb. Honestly, it sounded scarily German to me. So, what? Are you planning to get revenge on all 5 of the frauds? That's over now. Isn't it? Aren't there other things you need to settle?
Don't be silly. They might have been con artists, but I'm not interested in playing the victim, as Mr. Oshino would put it. They betrayed me, but it's not like they forced me to rely on them, and I wouldn't hold such an unreasonable grudge. I'm not that kind of... Okay, let's put my personality aside, but I don't plan on getting it all.
So there was a problem with her personality. She was aware of it.
But Kaiki is different.
How so?
He ushered my parents' divorce. Obviously, I can't lay all the blame at his feet, and I won't, but he made a plaything out of my family. I can't forgive him for that. If I forgave him for it, I wouldn't be myself anymore.
Senjogahara's father and mother divorced by mutual agreement late last year, I believe. It was around that time that she moved out of the house she'd lived in for many years and into these ramshackle apartments. Since then, she hadn't seen her mother not even once.
Even if it weren't for Kaiki, I'm pretty sure my parents would have gotten divorced. Our family would have split up. My mother leaving, that was my fault, I think. But, Araragi, just because the outcome might have been the same, do you think I can forgive someone causing it out of malice? Just because it would have happened sooner or later anyways, is malice forgivable?
Malice?
T should have a monopoly on malice.
Well, I don't know about that, but the charms that Kaiki was circulating must have affected the relationships of other people in Sengoku's life, either for better or for worse. It would be simple to say that any relationship that ended up crumbling thanks to such hocus-pocus would have crumbled anyway. But there was something wrong with that simplification. By that logic, what else could you say? If a person was dying, was it all right to kill that person? If a thing was going to disappear, you could eradicate it. If it was fake, it had no right to exist. Where did it end?
Out of greed, Keiki used my encounter with the crab to make my family fall apart. Since it was going to anyway, maybe you were secondary to me in all this. Protecting you was a convenient pretext. It's really just my resentment for Kaiki that's driving me.
Pretext?
It was sundering. Don't misunderstand, Araragi. None of this was for your sake.
Doubt that, I think. I say this with conviction, with unfortunate conviction. The crab that Senjogahara encountered, an event that occurred while she'd been possessed by it. Back then, she probably hadn't even been able to hate Deishu Kaiki. Because that's the kind of aberration the crab was. That had to be Senjogahara's regret. Deishu Kaiki, the ominous Deishu Kaikishi, hadn't been able to hate him in real time. That was Hitagi Senjogahara's regret, that she couldn't hate him as it happened, unlike Karen and Tsukihi Araragi, who did out of a shallow sense of justice. In truth, she should have been angry like a child who'd just lost her mother. But in that case, there's one thing I still don't understand. Kaiki is supposed to be a fake and swindler, right? But from what you're saying, it sounds like he was able to spot your crab aberration, just like he had managed to infect Karen with this cinder swarm bee. Wouldn't that mean Kaiki was actually the real deal?
Who knows? But a fake with powers surpassing the real deal is also more dangerous than the real deal, though at the time I thought he was nothing but a quack. Thinking back, he may have been feigning incompetence, just in order to squeeze more money from my father.
Now he's hitting up junior high kids for their milk money. My sisters were trying to stop him when he got Karen.
See. So, your sister is a justice man, too.
Vikes, that name.
Well, she's a girl, so maybe justice woman.
You know, your coinage sounds even crappier than you think.
The Fire Sisters of Suvinoki Second Middle School. I heard some of the rumors.
Right, you did. In Senjogahara's case, it was more like gathering intel than getting wind of gossip.
Like brother, like sister, you bad-mouth them a lot, and that makes sense. Justice types tend to be incompatible.
Don't flatter them, they're make-believe defenders of justice. As for me, I never thought of myself as an agent of justice. We're more like a bunch of kids squabbling over who gets to play in a vacant lot. In that sense, wondering if it was hating people who were like me or self-hatred was overblown. It was just siblings fighting, nothing special.
Araragi, let me say for the record that justice won't work against this ominous fellow, not as far as I can tell. Let me be blunt. You and your justice might be potent against hypocrites, but it's weak against really bad people.
She keep telling you, justice isn't my thing. My sisters were, at least, right. I wasn't even that. I could make it pretty, but not right. Shinobu had been a victim of that very shortcoming. There was a long line of mistakes leading up to where I was today. Still, I can't just stand by while you turn into a criminal.
My plan isn't to commit a crime. It's to mete out punishment.
Modern society would view it as one and the same. If she'd been born in mythical times, people might have handed down tales of some seriously heroic deeds. Without a doubt, she'd been born into the wrong era. Either that, or the wrong world. But I, for one, was grateful that she'd been born into this world in this era. I felt truly grateful to have met her. Senjogahara, maybe you don't realize this, but I love you. If you did turn to crime and were sent to prison, I would visit you every day. But if possible, could we always be together? At times I wonder why I'm dating you, but I love you so much, I don't need any reason. It goes without saying, but the list of things I want to protect includes you, Senjogahara. If we're going, let's go together. Protect me, and I'll protect you.
Damn it. That sounded insanely cool. If I were a man, your runaway manliness would make me so mad with jealousy that I'd murder you.
You're scaring me.
Luckily, I'm a woman, so I can just be attracted to you instead.
With that, Senjogahara pushed over the pile of pencils by her side.
Okay, Araragi. We'll do it your way.
You mean you'll take me to see Kaiki?
Yes. But in exchange, I have one request.
A request?
If request sounds too mushy for your tastes, then call it a condition, a prerequisite for bringing you to Kaiki. Well?
Her tone was testing, but there was only one way I could answer. Go on. Whatever the request, or however many, I accept.
It'll only have one, Araragi. I'm meeting Kaiki in order to turn a page. Just like one mistress, I mean, Hanakawa Katae.
Hold on, you did it again. I can't possibly let it slide.
Tom not being threatened.
You're being threatened? By Hanakawa?
TT's only normal to kneel for her, wherever we are.
Wherever you say?
Yes, just like when Hanakawa cut her hair and was able to move forward, I planned to face Kaiki and make a break with my past.
The past. Senjogahara's past. Did that mean middle school? Her first year of high school? Her second year? Or Some other time?
I, too, am ready to move forward.
She was already facing forward. I considered saying as much, but it would have been superfluous. Besides, maybe facing forward and moving forward were two different things. Okay, so what's your request? What do I have to do for you to take me with you?
Time, not ready to tell you yet.
It's something you can't even tell me?
You're going to listen to any request, right?
Well, sure. But it was scary. I wasn't going to back out of it, but that was scary. Like signing on the dotted line of an unfilled contract. After all, it was Senjo Gahara I was dealing with.
Once we're through with Kaiki, however that turns out, tell you.
Why not now then? Then?
If I told you, it wouldn't be foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing?
Yes, you die, and forever regretting that I didn't voice the request now. I live out my life alone.
So I die in this plot line?
Yes, and in the climactic scene, the telescope you gave me on my birthday comes into play as a key item.
T can't think of any situation where it would. Forget about foreshadowing or whatever, just tell me now.
Fine, forget the whole thing.
If she was going to be like that, I had no choice. Senjo Gahara drove a cutthroat bargain as usual. I nodded. All right, understood.
Ah, then let's go. Well, protect each other.
That morning, Senjo Gahara had phoned Kaiki, not as a client, but as a past victim. In order to request a meeting, I suppose you might say a confrontation. When you thought about it, though, it had been a bit of a gamble to begin with, since there was no way of knowing whether Kaiki would even pick up. But in that wager, it seemed Senjo Gahara had prevailed. As well as in the conversation that followed, the result was that they were now scheduled to meet in the afternoon. The other party, i.e., Keiki, had accepted Senjo Gahara's demand without objections. Things had gone almost too smoothly. It was unsettling and ominous. Anyway.
The meeting is scheduled for 5 p.m.
See, in that case, I'm going to head home first. There might be more I could learn from my sisters. Karen is still laid up, but Tsukihi should probably be awake by now.
Fine. Come back here in the afternoon then.
Okay. Don't go running off without me.
Of course I won't. Have I ever lied to you before?
Lying was all she did. She could play a ballad on a lie detector.
Tired of lies, but they won't leave me alone.
Guess it's all in the phrasing, and when I think about it, that makes 0 sense. She was tired of lies, then just tell the truth.
Relax. This is all about having you hear out my request. I might lie, but I'm promising you.
TC, fine then.
Here, it's called negotiating.
Promising and negotiating were two very different things.
Team a little sleepy anyway.
Ah, that's right, you were up all night. All night, sharpening pencils. Except for the 5 hours, of course, when she was too depressed because Hanakawa had scolded her. Senjo Gahara's face was still as passive as cast iron, but under the circumstances I'm sure she must have been tired. It was impossible to tell, just by looking at her.
You were up all night too, Araragi, even if you were unconscious for some of that time. I don't think you want to face a con man like Kaiki while you're half asleep instead of talking to your sisters. Wouldn't it be better if you took a nap?
Well, when it comes to lack of sleep, I cope pretty well, because of the vampirism.
Still, get some rest. There's no guarantee you'll get any sleep tonight either.
With that chilling piece of advice to chew on, I headed home. However, our confrontation with Kaiki might play out. I probably needed to be in good shape going in, to be prepared, so that whatever scars remained afterward, there would at least be no regrets. At the same time, I was telling the truth when I said I wanted to hear what Karen and Tsukihi had to say. No, maybe I should talk to Hanakawa again. I could head over to her house and get my bike back at the same time, but we'd already caused her enough trouble. It was better not to get her any more involved, though perhaps that was just me being overprotective when it came to Hanakawa. She was a good person that didn't come any better, but was never overprotective, not of anyone. You could say she valued personal responsibility for what it was worth. Actually, she was too callous about herself, now that she'd cut her hair and decided to move forward. It would be nice if that side of her changed as well, but I was probably speaking out of turn. I was going to take college entrance exams. I had made the decision in June. Beginning to study for exams in June of my senior year, you couldn't dally more than I had. Normally I'd have to resign myself to taking a year out, I was only able to give it a try, thanks to Senjo Gahara and Hanakawa's finely geared tutoring. As for their own studies, Senjo Gahara had some of the top marks in our year and would be getting into college on a recommendation. By the way, I'm hoping to get into the same school as her. The order of this explanation got flipped, but basically I started studying for exams because I want to join her there. Whereas Hanakawa, who had the top marks, wasn't planning on applying to any university, truth be told. The top of her year. Actually, if we're being honest, one of the smartest people in the world. The whole faculty had high hopes for her, but Hanakawa had chosen not to choose a college for herself. The only ones who knew so far were me and Kambari. I suppose it was also possible that Senjo Gahara had heard it straight from Hanakawa, but I hadn't said anything. I couldn't blab about it. If people found out, an uproar would overtake Naotsu High, the likes of which no haircuts, contact lenses, accessories, or bags could ever prepare us for. Classes would be suspended, and the school would be boarded up until further notice. After all, it was said that if you added up the IQs of everyone else at our school, it still wouldn't be equal to Hanakawa's. Well, I'm fully aware you can't do that with IQs, but the difference between Hanakawa and the rest of us was so great that it surpassed the bounds of common sense. I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that I'd never meet another person in my life as great as Hanakawa, but perhaps that was why passing up an obvious choice like going to college made sense for her. Even if it made sense, it was still unexpected. As for what she was planning to do instead of going to college, when you put it into words, it sounded incredibly banal. She was going to travel. One long journey around the world. She had already worked out a complete multi-year plan as to her itinerary in that sense. She was a typical models. So, whether I get into college or not, I'd asked her when I found out. Once we graduate, I guess I won't be able to see you anymore? It was right after summer vacation started. We were studying in the library. I tried to sound casual, but that probably just made it seem more awkward. That's not true. Hanakawa replied with a bashful smile. All you have to do is call for me, and wherever I am in the world, I'll come running. We mean a lot to each other. Okay, if you ever need anything, you can call me too. I don't care if I'm in the middle of midterm exams, wherever you are in the world, I'll come running. Aha! Say that again after you actually get in. Which is how the conversation ended. I couldn't help but wonder how her life might be turning out if she'd never met me and had never gotten involved with aberrations. If she hadn't come to know the demon, if she had never known that cat, her life probably would have never gotten thrown so far off track. Not after all the time where staying on the straight and narrow was her only goal in life. The real deal that she was. Yeah, you'll leave her alone. I'd reached the decision by the time I arrived home. I figured Hanakawa had probably told me everything that I needed to know. And even if there was more, if she found out Senjo Gahara and I were going to go meet with Kaiki in the afternoon, she might ask to come with us. I couldn't get her involved to such an extent. I didn't want to. If I could, I'd have preferred to go alone. Of course, Senjo Gahara had likewise tried to keep me from going with her, so I guess my behavior was contradictory. I just had to resign myself to contradiction. Because that's the kind of person I am.
Koyomi!
Tsukihei was standing near the front door. Noticing me, she'd yelled my name. Ah, you're up. Good morning.
Karen's gone! When I woke up just now, I couldn't find her anywhere. She's still sick.
Calm down, Tsukihei-chan. Did you check my room? I put her to sleep in there.
Of course I did. Why are you wasting time with stupid questions? Your shoes are gone too, and it looks like she changed.
Perhaps absorbing half of Karen's fever had been a mistake. Even if she wasn't well yet, she was feeling well enough to be able to leave the house. She'd just pretended to feel worn out and to fall asleep. Then, after she saw me leave, she slipped out the door. Damn, the kid was a handful.
Mom and Dad think it's just Karen up to one of her usual stunts. Obviously, I can't tell them the truth. Koyomi, what am I gonna...
Calm down. Think. Do you have any idea where she might have gone?
No. She'd probably tried to go wherever Kaiki is. But we don't know where that is.
Are you saying Karen does know?
Don't think so. He already slipped through her hands once.
Karen. That bumblehead. It meant she, herself, didn't have any idea where she was going, the idiot. She couldn't stomach just waiting around even if she had no clue, and so she bolted out of the house determined to do something. Stop faking it, for goodness sake. Told they'll look for her. I'm sure she hasn't gone far. She couldn't have. You wait here.
What? I want to go look for her too.
I figured as much. She was probably just about to leave when I got home. But even if you find Karen, chances are she'd then persuade you to join her. If things get any more complicated than they are already, I'm not sure I'd be able to handle it.
You really don't trust us, do you?
She was half laughing and half crying. Of course, I didn't trust them. Day after day, they were all wrong. Or too right. Trust, no. But I do worry about you guys.
But more than that, I'm angry.
How many times did I have to say it? Frustrated, I removed my hands from Tsukihi's shoulder and turned on my heel heading out the gate and onto the street. And then I started to think. What to do, where to look. If Karen didn't have a destination in mind, all I could do was wander around and hope for the best. She was the worst kind of missing person. Unlike Senjogahara, Karen had no way of contacting Kaiki directly. Even if she did, Kaiki wouldn't agree to meet her. It was a good thing I had lent Hanakawa my bicycle. If not, Karen would have almost certainly taken it without asking. Being on foot rather than on a bike made for a big difference in her movement radius. Unless she got on a bus, in which case I was screwed. Unlike me, my sister said bus passes. Think, if I were Karen, what would I do? She's not in her best shape, but she has something she needs to do. Other people want to stop her, but she can't quit. First, she'd try to put some distance between herself and the house, because if we found her, we'd bring her back. That's step one. But what next? What next? What would Karen do next? Gah! How would I know what an idiot was thinking? Maybe she'd just gone to the store. I gave up on that approach, but maybe she'd use her new phone she was so proud of to contact Hanakawa sneakily, before even leaving the house. No, I doubted it. Karen and Tsukihi had kept it a secret that Hanakawa was helping them. They'd asked Hanakawa to keep quiet about it too. That meant they felt guilty, and Karen could at least guess that if she contacted Hanakawa now, it would get back to me. But then a knucklehead might make the call without bothering to think. I could try calling Karen's cell, but there was no way she'd pick up. The GPS feature on her phone could track her down, but I'd need to ask my parents. Under the circumstances, I couldn't go to them for help. Besides, she might have switched off her phone.
Will you shut up?
I couldn't stop fretting, my thoughts all over the place. But in the middle of my panic, a voice spoke to me abruptly from the shadows. From my shadows. Before I even registered the fact, Shinobu Oshino was standing by my side. It was like she had appeared even before she appeared. She was wearing a kitty dress that was whiter than a real one ever could be. It was tunic length and of a different design than the one she'd worn in the cram school ruins. No leggings. For shoes, she was wearing mules over bare feet. The mules were also nearly translucent in their whiteness. As for her helmet, she was skipping it, just as she'd said. Her blonde hair was magnificently exposed. She was staring at me with drowsy eyes.
It cannot sleep amidst this clamor. Has it never occurred to thee? We are bound through thy shadow, and any vexation on thy part is imparted to me. To be forced to share an insufferable panic when one does not feel agitated is the worst. I say, show some consideration and try to control thy madness, though I suppose it's impossible of one such as thee.
Shinobu, do you know what's going on?
More or less. These kinswomen of thine are foolhardy enough to give thee a run for thy money. Come to think of it, ye came seeking for me as well when I went lost. Ah, such fond memories.
Would it be all right if I asked you to help?
Kakak, unfortunately, I am not in a position to deny thee our relationship as master and slave may be complex, but in power ye exceed me. I told thee long ago, did I not, that the vampire's bond is a bond of the soul? If ye command, I cannot but obey, however much I dislike the task.
It's not a command. I'm in no position to be giving you orders.
Then I refuse. Ye dunce. I am willing to help, but I do not wish to make the offer. That would be shameful. That is why I am telling thee to word it as a command. For appearance's sake, can't ye even brain that much? Why else would I interrupt my slumber and show up at an opportune moment if not to aid thee?
You're more than a little tsundere, too. I couldn't help but grimace at Shinobu's words. When did she get so tinted by our world, anyways? After living for 5 centuries, 5 months was all it took for her to adopt our mores. This had to be more of Oshino's elite schooling at work. What was that Aloha guy thinking? Fine then, it's an order. Where is she? Find Karen for me.
Ah, woe is me, what a calamity. To be forced to obey such a lowly human. But if ye insist on being a tyrant, I suppose I have no choice? How would ye ever manage without me? Dear, dear, how adorable. Thy sisterling's blood is similar in composition, so I can sniff out her general direction.
Apparently Karen had been trying to catch a bus, after all. She was probably planning to head toward the school she attended, Sudenoki 2nd MS. I found her sitting on a bench inside the kiosk at our usual bus stop, the one closest to our house. No, not sitting on the bench, sprawled across it. She'd run out of strength before she had a chance to board. It was a Sunday, nearly afternoon. Not many folks were looking to catch a bus at such a time in our country town. Karen had the kiosk all to herself. Dressed in her jersey, she was slumped across the bench. Her breathing seemed regular, resting, but not asleep. I felt like a fool for running for 3 minutes straight at Shinobu's urging. Then again, the inside of the kiosk was a blind spot. If it wasn't for her, I might never have noticed. Without accounting for the fact that Karen might be feeling weak, I'd have glanced at the stop from afar and continued on my way.
What's up, Kiss Monster?
Karen glanced up at me listlessly before dragging herself into a sitting position. She seemed to have worked up a fair amount of sweat again as well. After all, the trouble I'd gone to in order to lower her fever, she seemed to have stoked it back up by traipsing around outside. Cinders warm. Be or not, her temperature was still too high for her to leave the house. Even if she was clear-headed, her body couldn't keep pace. She may as well have been in a regular stupor. Let's go home.
You go home, leave me alone.
TFF, you insist on being difficult, I might have to kiss you again.
Don't you understand? My precious virtue is gone now. I've nothing left to fear.
T wouldn't be so sure. You don't know what true fear is.
The only one who will be experiencing true fear is you. Don't even think about trying to stop me.
Whether I stop you or not? I mean, I am going to stop you. But where do you think you're going? You don't even know where Kaiki is, do you?
But I'm gonna go find out. I can't just sit around.
Karen's hair was still down from before. She hooked it back with a practiced move, using a rubber band from around her wrist to tie it into a single lock. It was the same ponytail she always wore. She looked cooler than she should. So what do you plan to do, if not sit around?
T planned to search to find and to wall up.
You sound like you were born before the Christian era.
A fist to the eye and a fist to the tooth.
The more you talk, the dumber you sound.
T, I already told you what that man did to me. Do you know how disheartening it feels?
And I already told you leave the rest to me.
But I never agreed.
Come on, you should be at home now resting.
That's the kind of thing a complete stranger might say. You're my brother, you should be saying something like, "Don't give up, go get him, you got this."
Do you really think I would ever say something so irresponsible? Mom and Dad have real hopes for you, unlike me. You're supposed to be the good kid. Can't you just stick to normal bratty pranks? They're willing to overlook most stuff, so don't be crossing a line.
You're turning yourself around now, so it's fine.
They won't even let me go to a cram school.
But you're actually...
Karen started to speak, and then stumbled on her feet. Was she having trouble standing up straight? It was mostly willpower that was propping her up. No, even her willpower was probably exhausted at this point. So what was it then? Her sense of duty? Her stubbornness? Her pride? Or perhaps it was conviction. Whatever it was, if she couldn't stand, I'd just carry her home on my back, and this time I'd tie her to the bed so she couldn't escape.
Words won't get us anywhere. You're not interested in anything I have to say in the first place?
To listen later. Maybe as I peel you an apple while I sit by your bedside. Karen raised her arms and closed her hands into fists. She dropped her hips and bent her knees slightly. She'd been swaying unsteadily until moments ago, but snapped out of it in a flash. Her back was erect as a steel column. She wasn't defending herself. Karen turned toward me aggressively.
Come to think of it, it's been a while since we've had a serious...
Don't flatter yourself. I was never serious about any of our fights. You're just my little sister, so you've gotten stronger. Big whoop. What use is that going to do you now? This isn't some dojo. Besides, you're hardly in your normal condition at the moment.
My condition? Ah, that's right. My condition isn't normal. My head feels fuzzy, and I'm hot all over like my body is on fire. It feels like my clothes might burst into flames from the heat. My joints are heavy, and every time I take a step, I feel like I might fall. I can't even see you straight. It's like my eyes are parched. If I so much as blinked, they might never open again. In other words, I'm in my best condition.
She edged toward me still in her fighting stance. Before I knew, she'd closed the distance between us until she was near enough to land a punch. You know, you're pretty slick. If you weren't my sister, I might have a crush on you.
And if you weren't my brother, I might have gone easy on you.
Too bad Karen took a swing. It wasn't hard to see the punch coming. She wasn't even on the rebound from her illness. She was still as sick as a dog. I blocked it and then twisted her wrist, back and up. The next instant I was soaring through space. Pips. I didn't even have the time to register my surprise. Forget about a scream, the best I could manage was an exclamation mark, before crashing, supine, onto the asphalt. The asphalt. It's not a comfortable surface for the human back. I was ready to scream now. Ah! Ah!
Too bad this isn't some dojo, Koyomi. That wouldn't have hurt so bad on the mats. In our style, we start learning throws after the first strike. Did I forget to mention that?
You've got to be kidding me. Since when were there throws in karate? Apparently there were a lot of things I didn't know about in this world. And it seemed Karen could move just fine. I hadn't been expecting that.
Thanks, that really opened my eyes.
By that, I guess she didn't mean recognizing the error of her ways and feeling penitent. Moving around had quite literally woken her up and cleared the cobwebs from her brain. She slowly stretched herself out.
Let's see. 20 minutes until the next bus. Do you want me to call you an ambulance in the meantime?
Don't make me laugh. The only one who'll be getting in an ambulance is you. The wind had been knocked out of me when I landed on the ground, so I was breathing heavy. But that didn't matter. There was no need for me to catch my breath. Stare straight ahead at your sister, your little sister, who's ill.
You're kidding! How are you standing? That throw could have killed you. In fact, the instructor told me I should never use that technique outside the dojo, under any circumstances.
Then I hope they kick you out.
Just stay out of my way.
I didn't see the next punch coming. Not that the punch itself was any faster. She hadn't purposely slowed her earlier attack to set up the throw. This time, however, she added in a feint. It made a big difference. The first strike was full force, but the second strike was a doozy. Ack. Ning. Ning. Karen landed 5 punches to my torso before I hit the asphalt again. I had failed to block a single one. It was a total onslaught, a barrage of fists.
By the way, Koyomi, don't you think the phrase "my body is on fire" sounds kind of dirty?
No, I don't.
TT sounds almost like "my body is for hire."
You sound like a friend of mine from school.
A friend? Who?
Tom talking about the biggest pervert I know. Kanbaru would be over the moon if she could hear me. While I was still shouting, Karen tried to land a kick. This time I caught her by the ankle. Yes, I was still the stronger one, and her wrist was one thing. But there was no way she could throw me while I was holding her ankle. Unfortunately, Karen had 2 legs. I never saw it coming. Using the ankle I was gripping as a fulcrum, she swung her other leg up to kick me hard in the side. This hurt. After all, she was taller than me and had just put her whole weight into the kick. I think I felt my organs flatten. But I didn't let go, at least, not until she landed the same fiendish attack. 3 more times. No good. I wasn't going to be able to ride this beating out. I didn't have a vampire's constitution anymore. To be honest, purely in terms of how it felt to me, Karen seemed a notch above the likes of Guillotine Cutter.
Master.
As I released Karen's leg, I heard a voice coming from the ground. No, not from the ground. From my shadow, which was cast across the ground. In other words, from Shinobu Oshino. It was just her voice, and it seemed like I was the only one who could hear it. Karen didn't react.
Did I tell thee earlier? Just as thy vexation and panic are conveyed to me in a most direct manner with the same intensity, so is thy pain.
Just try to endure it a little longer, I guess experience. I was talking to the ground, so from Karen's point of view, I was the sort of person you'd steer clear of unless she thought I was starting to get delirious from all the pain.
Command, and I shall step in.
Tom, fine. I don't need your help.
At this rate, might whether ye order it or not.
Then my order is for you to stay out of this.
Ye gall my patience.
Till stroke your head later, I promise. Stroking her head was a ritual for pledging absolute obedience. When I washed her hair yesterday, the intent was partly symbolic.
The head is not enough. I demand a stronger ritual.
A stronger ritual?
Yes, something which argues greater devotion.
Huh, I didn't know. What kind of ritual is this?
Instead of stroking my head, ye stroke my chest.
Why didn't you tell me when you were still in adult form? I struggled to my feet, nearly in tears. The third attack wasn't accompanied by words. Karen's punch simply came at me, just endured a little longer. That's what I told Shinobu, but a little longer was pretty vague. For now, what she had to endure was another 10 punches. I endured it too, of course. I endured the unendurable and suffered the insufferable. Karen really had gotten stronger. I was practically no match for her as I was. Vampiric or not, I can't believe I was ever arrogant enough to think I might kill her by accident if we fought. She'd progressed so far while I was avoiding her squabbles? How could she have gotten so strong in a matter of mere months? Who is this instructor of hers, Grand Elder Goro? Did she drink the ultra-divine water or something? Believe me, I wasn't trying to be suave. I wasn't letting her hit me because she was a girl, or my sister, or whatever, though I was faring so poorly that an excuse would have served nicely. There wasn't even an opening for me to launch a counterattack. Talk about unfair. Was she an original character introduced in the anime, or what? It was a whole different worldview. Maybe being sick meant that Karen's brakes had stopped working as well, because her assault showed no signs of slowing down.
This is getting ridiculous. I bet my hand hurts more from punching you.
Don't be stupid, I'm the one getting hit. Obviously I'm in more pain. Geez. If it wasn't for my lingering vampirism's healing factor, I'd be dead by now. No joke.
You know you can't beat me, Koyomi.
And you know you can't beat me, Karen. I could feel myself bleeding all over. I'd let Shinobu drink it afterward as a peace offering. In fact, if I didn't boost my healing skill that way, I'd have to check into a hospital.
Tia, if you want to give up, you better do it now, Koyomi.
Tetanus a little late for that line?
My hands hurt.
So I'm done punching you, Karen said before coming at me again. This time with a leg sweep. I'd expected her to use her legs next, so I was able to avoid it by jumping backward. But I wasn't able to dodge the follow-up attack. She brought her other leg up high and brought it crashing down heel first. A Nario Chagi. What the hell was up with her karate school? Narze. I raised both my hands in a cross above my head to block, but my sister was the musclehead. There was no way it was going to be enough to stop her kick. In fact, I was probably about to have the bones in my arms shattered. What kind of a technique is that to use against an amateur, I thought, but oddly, while the force hit me like a ton of bricks and I felt like I was about to be squashed from the force, it didn't knock me over. What? Was she holding back? Unless...
Not bad, but...
Even as she spoke, her leg, which had swung low from the axe kick, now came slicing up, toes aiming for my jaw. But she had another thing coming if she thought a flashy move like that was going to connect. I swayed my upper body back just enough to evade it. But she hadn't meant the move as a strike. Karen kicked her other leg up as though to chase the first, tossing her whole body up into the air. She supported herself on her palms, a handstand.
Huh?
With her legs spread open in a straight split like a bamboo copter, she began to spin. Najdie, wreck. Somehow I managed to block with my arms, if you could call it blocking. I wasn't guarding myself, I was having my arms pulverized. It felt like I was being beaten with a baseball bat. I think she spun about 5 times. In other words, she kicked my arms 10 times. I couldn't even feel them anymore. How could she generate so much force standing upside down? Didn't I know the attack from some fighting game? It wasn't karate, it was capoeira. After being kicked again and again, I tried to grab one of Karen's legs. She had messed up this time. She underestimated me if she thought such an acrobatic maneuver would finish me. Now was my chance to counterattack, only as if she'd been waiting for me to reach out. And as if to shake it off, she sank toward the ground, sinking and momentarily lying on the ground from her handstand position without losing any momentum, as if the asphalt were slippery ice. She kept spinning on her back like she was breakdancing, speeding up, if anything, and sweeping at my legs again. The kicks were so sharp they were like a scythe. Circular motion, torque. Unable to utilize her full strength due to her illness, her strategy seemed to be to take advantage of the laws of inertia and centrifugal force, and it was proving extremely effective. I was so focused on guarding my upper body that my shins were wide open. My knees crumpled from the kicks, which looked to be Karen's aim all along. She stuck her palms against the asphalt again, raised herself into another handstand, and then pushed, leaping into the air using just her arms. Shit. While I was busy gawking, Karen's long legs, which she just employed as a scythe, turned into a pair of scissors that clutched my head where her meaty thighs joined. She immediately bent one knee, locking my head in place. With my face smothered against her jersey's crotch, I couldn't breathe. But that was only for a moment. Karen spun her arms in midair, hard. Like a screw, the momentum whipped her whole body around. Her twist yanked me off the ground. Through sheer force, yet uprooted me. Karen had taken mine out in advance, and I was powerless to resist the completely unexpected maneuver. Before I had time to say impossible, the world grew blurry. I was soaring through space once more. Karen released her leg hook on my head halfway through, allowing me to somehow avoid landing head first. I'm pretty sure this was another never use under any circumstances outside of the dojo technique. It reminded me of something out of Muscleman wrestling, but was probably an ancient martial art move, but there was no way I was going to make a clean landing. I hit the ground hard, striking my hips on the pavement. I seized up white pain racking my body. Karen, meanwhile, had landed perfectly, just as you would expect. She was already launching a follow-up strike. She'd used her legs like a scythe and a pair of scissors, and this time they lashed out like a whip. I instantly grabbed a stone and lugged it at Karen, not just one either. I threw one each with both of my hands. A big boy throwing stones at a middle school girl. None other than me.
Don't think so!
Hollering Karen didn't even slow as the missiles approached. She deflected the arc of her kick and knocked away the 2 stones that were hurtling toward her. No, not knocked away. She smashed them into smithereens. Her kicks can shatter stone mid-air? That was a metal bat she was swinging? Geez, how much have you been training, Sister Princess 1/12 scale model?
That'd be a normal sister.
Managing an appropriate rebuttal to my curse without letting her quipping distract her, I guess you could say she was built to different specs than me. She aimed at my head again. A running, flying back kick, and you know my head just happened to be right there. And believe it or not, gruesome though it may be, it wasn't over with one strike. I'd hate to say wings on a tiger, but Karen almost seemed to defy gravity still suspended in midair. She followed up with another pinpoint strike to my head with her other leg, but it wasn't over with 2 strikes either. Still in mid-leap, Karen let the rotation take her, kicking me a total of 3 times in the head. I felt like Ant-Man after getting a new face from Uncle Jam. Is that metaphor going to work? It means I thought my head had gotten blown off. The first kick had been so powerful that if I'd been standing up, it probably would have floored me instantaneously, but since my ass happened to already be on the ground, I took all 3 hits in quick succession seriously. It was pretty devastating. My brain was probably bean paste by this point, no exaggeration. What are you, a ceiling fan? I'm gonna start talking like an alien at this rate. You Futakoi 1/6 scale model.
Me and Suki are twins.
You were, in the original setting.
We were?
Yes, indeed. If you searched hard enough, you could still find a few remaining clues. After a revolution and a half, Karen landed on 1 foot. But Karen, being Karen, most certainly did not stop to catch her breath. This time she spun in the other direction, and leapt back into the air in order to kick me on the other side of my head. But apparently ergonomics were against her. As soon as she did, she was spun around by the force of her own kick, completely ruining her form. But wait, I was wrong, it was another feint. She was just building up centrifugal momenta. But wait, I was wrong, it was another feint from Tenacity and the Napacetus and Fircest. And tight, in the plania to the Sadie sex, we don't be. She leaned into her kick and executed a spectacular backflip before my eyes and landed on me as I sat with my buttocks planted firmly on the ground. She alighted on my shoulder, then using me as a springboard, leapt straight into the air, directly over my head. What? You? I glanced up reflexively, only to be greeted by the sight of Karen folding both her legs, ready to bring her full weight crashing down in a knee drop on the bones she'd used as her personal springboard. You're kidding me, you'll rip my shoulder clean off forget Ant-Man, man, you happy less than 1/5 scale model.
That one's not about sisters, it's about mothers.
True. I guess I got carried away. What demographic were we going after anyway? Without a second to lose, ignoring the searing pain in my back, I somehow squirmed away. Her point of contact was focused on a single spot, so I only had to shuffle a bit to avoid the blow. It's your own jump strength that will be your ruin, girl. Enjoy kneeing the asphalt instead of my shoulder? A couple of small stones are one thing, but demolishing an asphalt surface shouldn't prove so easy. Your knees will be the thing turned to smithereens, this time. Yet, from the corners of my eyes, I witnessed an astounding sight. I dodged her attack at the last moment, but in response, Karen twisted her upper body a mere foot and a half off the ground, creating a spiral with her 5-7 inches frame to stick a landing which, if not elegant, was plenty impressive. Especially compared to just managing to crawl out of the way on your hands and knees. Despite the fact that we were still in the middle of a battle, I couldn't help but gaze in awe at Karen's fluid maneuver, basically giving her a perfect opening. She acted without hesitation, slipping behind me, swiftly twisting back my arms, and hooking them in place with her knees. Then she strangled me once again, with both of her arms. A collar lock. No, sleeper hold? With her legs wrapped around my arms, it was an unusual variation, but this wasn't karate either. It was clearly a judo move. Are you sure you're not studying judo? Or maybe Jeet Kune Do?
Nope, it's karate. This technique is called the choke sleeper X.
Since when are they named like wrestling moves? Uh-oh. My sister had fallen prey to false advertising. Well, considering her level, I guess it didn't matter what school or style she followed. Either way, I was in big trouble. I might be able to endure her punches and kicks, but even with vampiric healing, there was no way I could withstand a stranglehold. Attacking the respiratory system directly is a surprisingly effective tactic. It had taken me so long to recover from Karen's first throw precisely because it had knocked the wind from my lungs. When Karen said she was done punching, I thought she meant she was changing to a leg-heavy style. But if the idea was to use other variations with her arms, like throws and chokes, then I was screwed.
Getting choked can be kind of pleasurable. I know from experience. I hope you enjoy it.
Who choked you? I'll kill the bastard!
One in talking about you.
Right. And I guess as part of training at the dojo.
This is vengeance for all those years under your thumb?
Wait, didn't we have another reason for this? But no matter how much Karen flexed and squeezed my neck, my breathing remained absolutely fine. I guess when push came to shove, she still wasn't feeling well. Unlike striking techniques, where she could concentrate the impact into bursts, a chokehold required her to maintain continuous force with her arms. In her current condition, she just couldn't generate enough power. The fact that she released her leg hook earlier, while still in midair, bolstered my theory. It wasn't long before Karen also realized trying to choke me was a mistake. But this was my chance. As soon as she realized her mistake, I shook off her arms, stood up and spun around. Karen had also gotten back on her feet. I reached for her chest. I never beat her on technique. My one chance was to hook her by the jersey and drag her into an ugly free-for-all. Unfortunately,
Where are you aiming, perv?
Karen easily dodged my arms. And then, of all things, she planted her skull to my face. A headbutt. Girls weren't supposed to use headbutts. The counter was well-timed, hitting me square in the bridge of my nose and temporarily dazing me. I closed my eyes reflexively and lost sight of Karen. Karen, being Karen, did not let that opportunity go to waste. She immediately stepped into my blind spot, turning her back to me for a moment before executing a 270-degree turn, using her full weight to strike me with a backhand to the temple talk about a pinpoint strike. My brain shook in my skull. The single blow was enough to knock me down to the asphalt again. My body skidded, leaving my clothes tattered. But I didn't have time to worry about that. If I didn't get up right away, she'd follow up.
My hands really hurt, honestly. I don't want to hit you anymore. This is just turning into senseless violence. You get it already, don't you? You really can't beat me.
Don't be stupid. Don't you realize I passed up at least 5 chances to take you down? You're the one who needs to wake up. It's you can't beat me. Obviously, the truth was that she was pummeling me. I just sounded like a sore loser. Victory or defeat. You win or you lose.
Justice must win, right? Doesn't that mean might is right? If I defeat you, why shouldn't I go?
Careful now. That kind of thinking is a far cry from justice.
Huh? What's that supposed to mean? It's what you always say, like you know everything.
Oh yeah? I said that?
About me and Tsukihei, that we're right, but not strong justice always prevails, and losing isn't an option. Like you know everything, Koyomi, like you know everything. So I'm just making sure that I don't lose.
Oh, that. T meant it. You're right. But you're not strong.
Tam, stronger than you at least.
Are you? From where I'm standing, you seem pretty weak.
Look who's talking. You're a mess.
Physical strength is meaningless. What you really need is strength of will. That was what was amazing about Hanekawa. Her strength of will. You say you can't forgive Kaiki, but is that even your own will? You two are always acting on someone else's behalf, for someone else's sake. I don't see your own will in it.
You're wrong. We do what we do because we believe it's right. Other people just provide us with reasons.
Don't make me laugh. Since when does justice seek its rationale outside itself? How can you take responsibility when you make others your reason? You two aren't anything like justice, or even defenders of justice. You're just brats playing make-believe. Fake. Fakes will never be anything else. You don't go after the bad guy, just the heel. Am I wrong?
You are. Don't act like you know what you're talking about. Tsubasa would understand. She knows everything.
Not everything, she only knows what she knows. Hanekawa's line, what she always said almost as if to keep herself honest. If you aren't ready to acknowledge that it might only be self-satisfaction, and not self-sacrifice, don't bandy about grand words like justice. It's unpleasant.
What's so wrong about doing stuff for other people? Is sacrificing yourself bad? What if we're fakes? It's not like it causes you any trouble.
It causes me plenty of trouble, but I never said it was wrong. If you're willing to go through life wrestling with a sense of inferiority, then even if you're fakes, you're as good as the real thing. My grip strength was almost gone. I'd grabbed Karen, but there was almost no strength in it. Although she didn't try to brush me off, I needed to be sure. I pulled her into a hug. Her body felt hot, like she was burning up. But even if it was weak, I could sense her will. Everything would be all right. They were brats, immature, childish, but they had a whole future ahead of them in which to grow strong. Let me say one thing: I really can't stand you and Tsukihei, but I'm also proud of you. Always.
Kei Koyomi.
You said it was disheartening. I'm pretty sure I heard you say that. But it's even more disheartening for me. I'm not letting anyone get away with disgracing my sister, whom I'm so proud of. And so, leave the rest to me. There was no need to say more. Karen's body, which had been stiff moments before, suddenly went limp.
Disheartening, more like pathetic, needing my big brother to wipe my ass.
Says the girl who couldn't wipe her own sweat. Well, it's a great honor, as your big brother, to be wiping my little sister's ass. Hugging her tight, holding her taller body close, I flashed a smile. It's my turn to show off. Just don't go crushing on me. That would be incest. Too late, Karen said, and
I'm leaving the rest up to you.
just like the bickering siblings we were, we'd fought. But what a right and fine and gratifying fight. The whole thing played out so smoothly that it was almost anticlimactic. Whether or not that was fortunate, however, is another matter.
Fine then, I cede the issue. No more deceiving middle school students. I will cease spreading these so-called charms. And Araragi, if you are worried about that spirited young lady, your sister, you needn't be. Her condition is like a placebo effect. Instantaneous hypnosis, as they say, given her susceptibility to belief. I imagine her symptoms are quite severe, but she should recover within 3 days. Consider it a simple cold. As for you, Senjogahara, allow me to formally apologize for the situation with your mother. Legally speaking, I did no more than offer advice to you and your family. There is no law to indict me, but if I have hurt you, it would be untoward not to offer some consolation. Likewise, whatever money I took from your father, I will do my utmost to return, as that money has nearly all been spent. However, doing so may require some time.
So, said the ominous man dressed in a black suit, as if he was in mourning. Deishu Kaiki. Senjogahara had chosen the location of our rendezvous, the roof of perhaps the only department store complex in our town. Close quarters would have put us at a disadvantage, whereas any place too deserted would also be dangerous. Which is why she had chosen the department store roof. Of course, she also had the benefit of learning from Karen's mistake. It was the evening of July 30th. After our fight, I had carried Karen home piggyback. I figured she wasn't going to try and sneak out again, but just in case, I scrawled, "Need good time all men welcome" across her face in permanent marker to ensure she wouldn't leave the house. I also wrote "Hate bras not wearing one" across Tsukihi's face, joint liability. Then I met up with Senjogahara and headed to the meeting spot. There was a mini amusement park atop, with a small stage adjacent to it. Since today was Sunday, a performance was scheduled, a Power Rangers-type show. That would allow us to pretend we were just there waiting for it to start. A man dressed in the deepest black and 2 high school students. It wasn't the strangest combination, but it would draw some stares, which was probably desirable. He may have driven her off, but Kaiki had already been confronted by Karen once. Even though he had answered his phone, counting on him to let himself be summoned again seemed like a gamble to me. For some reason, however, Senjogahara remained strangely confident. In fact, it seemed less like confidence and more like trust. When we reached the department store roof, Deishu Kaiki was already waiting, alone. He was drinking a can of coffee. When he spotted us, he tossed the empty can into the garbage.
You're the boy I met outside the home of Gaines Legacy. Come to avenge your sister. How rare these days to see a child with such chivalry.
Next, he turned towards Senjogahara.
You've lost your charm though, haven't you, Senjogahara? Such an ordinary girl you've become.
He didn't even smile.
Excuse me. I'd say I never wanted to see you again, but I'd be lying. The truth is, I never wanted to see you the first time. Still, I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this moment.
Well, I haven't been. Certainly not when you've become such an ordinary girl. When I met you before, you sparkled as the night. Or maybe I should say you seemed enlightened. You were so worth deceiving.
I found myself thinking of them again. Of Ashino and Guillotine Cutter. They were all very different, and face-to-face like this, Kaiki had almost nothing in common with them, except for one point: their confidence. As if they were perpetrating crimes of conviction, registering and comprehending all, They chose to be silent or eloquent as they saw fit.
Is this your fault, Araragi? Are you the one who solved this young woman's problem?
No, I just gave her a little push.
Then you and I are the same. Of course, when I pushed her, it was in the direction of a cliff.
Which is what you're doing now, isn't it? To middle school students? Giving them a little push and trying to knock them over. Off the side of a cliff, or a suspension bridge.
Did your sister tell you? Yes, exactly. These country children have been saving up. I've burned a fair bit of coin in a very short amount of time.
Shift. I noticed Senjogahara was slowly closing the distance between herself and Kaiki. I'd say she was gearing up for a fight, but then she had been for some time now, ever since we had arrived on the roof. Or maybe, since she heard me utter Keiki's name. Or ever since he deceived her.
No, let's talk. I'll listen to what you have to say. It's why I'm here. It's why you're both here as well. Am I wrong?
Then, in fact, we listened to what Daishu Kaiki had to say. Fine then, I cede the issue, he said. He admitted to everything, promised to pick up stakes and even offered to make reparations. An anticlimax. Everything had gone smoothly, it was a perfect outcome. More than we had hoped for, yet, it was indeed more than we had hoped for. His response wasn't unexpected so much as unwanted.
How very forthcoming of you. But why should we believe you?
You wouldn't. Senjogahara. Araragi. What about you? Are you able to believe me?
Asking me to believe anything a con man says is ridiculous. At the same time, if we're not going to trust you even one bit, then this whole conversation is moot. It's like you said earlier, Kaki. We came here to talk.
Huh. You're a very level-headed young man, aren't you? Not one iota of a child's innocent charm. Your sister was much cuter with her refusal to think. In that sense, I suppose you live up to your title as Big Brother.
To me, at least, you don't look very repentant. I don't smell a whiff of remorse.
Ah, I haven't offered any apology yet, have I? Nor begged for my life. 1,000 pardons. I am most repentant, truly eaten up inside well. I suppose it's not you too that I should be apologizing to, but your father and mother, Senjogahara, and all the children I deceived this time.
You expect me to believe that shallow apology? Everything you say is a lie.
Perhaps it is. And if everything I say is a lie, so what? I am a fraud. It would be nothing less than sincere of me to only ever traffic in nonsense. And besides, Senjogahara.
What?
Isn't it overly hasty to label a mismatch between words and feelings a mere deception? If the words are not reflective of feelings, why assume that the words are false? Must the words be a lie and the feelings true? Who is to say?
Could you refrain from intentionally aggravating me? In case you didn't know, I'm trying very hard to be patient. I'm having a tough time resisting this urge to kill you.
So it would seem. And that's what I mean by ordinary. The old you would have never shown such patience.
At this point, what I want isn't to have our money returned. It wouldn't bring my family back.
I see. That is a great relief. I am a prolific spender and terrible at saving. In order to pay back your money, I was going to have to cook up a new scam.
Leave this town. Immediately.
Of course.
Once again, Kaiki assented with a readiness that was creepy and dubious.
What's wrong, Araragi? Why are you looking at me that way? You shouldn't. The results may not have been serious, but I did harm your little sister. If you're going to stare at me, shouldn't there be more enmity in your eyes?
My sister has herself to blame. She should have never gotten mixed up with someone like you. That goes without saying.
You're wrong. Your sister's mistake was in coming to meet me alone if she wanted to trip me up. She should have brought a friend or two, like you knew to do. Then I would have thrown up a white flag, just as I am doing now. On all other points, the young lady was more or less right.
Or are you declaring her to be a fool and denying her as a fool? I think she's right. But
She isn't strong. No, she certainly isn't. But there is no denying that young lady's kindness. What's more,
for the first time, Dishu Kaiki seemed to smile. A smile as ominous as a crow.
what's more, if it weren't for young ladies like her, I'd go hungry as a confidence man.
And why is that conman now so quick to do as we say? Surely you could just wheedle your way out of this, like you did with me before. I bet no one has any proof that you're scamming these kids.
Senjo Bihara, you misunderstand me. No, perhaps I shouldn't say misunderstand, but rather overestimate. It is quite natural to view someone you consider an enemy as being larger than life. I understand the impulse. But Senjo Gahara, life is not so dramatic. Rail against me, though you may. I am but a middle-aged dullard. Even as a conman, I am small fry at best. A dismal man.
Hardly worthy of your resentment, he appended.
I am not your enemy, just an annoying neighbor, even if I did once seem like a monster to you.
Don't kid yourself. You're just...
A fake, spat Senjo Gahara. But it was true that the same fake had been tormenting her.
Yes, precisely. I am that. A low creature whose mind is racing even now, desperate to get out of this fix. And the most effective means to that end is to be meek and submissive, and to do as you say. Capturing your good graces is my only avenue of escape.
Then, why come in the first place? He was obviously under no obligation to answer a summons from Senjo Gahara.
You see, Senjo Gahara, I am not obeying so meekly and submissively. Because of who you are, I would obey anyone, under comparable circumstances. If I may, until your call this morning, I had completely forgotten you. From my point of view, what happened to your family was just one con in a line of many that I carried out.
I had to rack my brain to remember you, he muttered, and looked at Senjo Gahara again.
I am not special, and neither are you. There is nothing dramatic about me, and there is nothing dramatic about you. All the loose bills and small change I managed to gather are but a paltry amount in society's grand scheme. However momentous a decision it was for you to confront me, its outcome is as insignificant as today's weather.
You'll find no drama here, Kaiki reiterated as though to chastise her.
And what of you, Araragi? Allow me to ask you, is your life dramatic? Is it a tragedy? A comedy? An opera? I sense something unsettling in your shadow. Also, you seem to have somehow absorbed half of your sister's condition. What madness. Such a risky thing to do, and without the promise of monetary reward.
Could he tell about Shinobu and about my body? And if he could, how? Just... which are you?
Which what?
For a fake, you did a pretty good number on my sister. Senjo Bihara's thing too. You could actually see what was wrong with her, couldn't you? Kambaru too. Are you familiar with aberrations?
I wasn't expecting such a silly question. My interest in you is waning, Araragi. Do you, for instance, believe in ghosts? Even if you don't, I imagine you can understand the psychology of someone who is afraid of ghosts. My case is similar. I don't believe in the occult, but there is money to be made in it. I refute the existence of aberrations and anomalies, but there are others in the world who affirm such things, which makes said persons easy to deceive. I may be a small fry conman, but thanks to such superstitious people I am able to eke out a living. So, in answer to your question, no, I'm not familiar with aberrations. I simply know people who are. Or to be precise, I know people who are under the impression that they're familiar with them.
This time he definitely smiled. Once again, like a crow, it hadn't been a trick of my eye.
Money is everything in this world. I would happily die for money.
When you take it that far, it sounds like faith?
However far I take it, it is a matter of faith. Faith is unswerving. Don't forget, people whom I deceive pay me money in compensation for my deceit. It is precisely because they believed that they paid a just price.
The Cinder Swarm Bee, Kaiki suddenly said, the name of the aberration he'd unleashed on Karen. One of those aberrations he wasn't familiar with.
Do you know of the Cinder Swarm Bee?
It's from the Muromachi period or something, right? An epidemic of unknown origin that people attributed to the work of an unidentified aberration supposedly. A lot of people died at the time.
You are correct, but you are also wrong. The Cinder Swarm Bee is actually a tale of the weird from the 15th chapter of the Illustrated Compendium of Eastern Discord, which was written during the Edo period, a fairly obscure text. But the fundamental point is that, Cinder Swarm Bee aside, no such sickness as described in the compendium ever spread during the Muromachi period.
Huh?
If such a thing had truly occurred, surely it would have been included in other texts. But the infection is mentioned only in the Illustrated Compendium of Eastern Discord. In other words, that epidemic of unknown origin never existed in the first place. Since there was no epidemic, there were of course no deaths and no actual phenomenon to attribute to an aberration. The entry was a product of the author's passing fancy. A spurious invention penned to resemble historical fact.
No such aberration ever existed in the first place. Not as cause, not as effect, not as process. It was all fake.
It's apocryphal. Search as hard as you like, but the aberration known as the Cinder Swarm Bee traces back not to the Muromachi period, but to the Edo period. Foolishly enough, later generations came to believe in the author's bullshit. What do you think of that? An aberration born from a single person's lie with neither grounds nor tradition to support it.
I stole a glance down at my shadow. Ashino had to have known too. In other words, Shinobu must have heard this story. But like she said, trying to remember all of Ashino's ramblings was a fool's errand. Besides, even if she'd known in advance, it wouldn't have been particularly helpful. Whether or not it existed, and wherever it came from, at the end of the day, the Cinder Swarm Bee was still the Cinder Swarm Bee.
It's as true for these old tales as it is for today's urban legends. There are cases that spring from reality, and cases that spring from fantasy. As a conman, I simply happen to make my living from the latter.
Placebo effect, instantaneous hypnosis. That was how he'd put it. But my sister, who was stung by the Cinder Swarm Bee, will she really get better even if we did nothing?
Of course, the Cinder Swarm Bee does not exist. These aberrations do not exist. By extension, neither must her condition. It only seems to because you people believe in it. To be blunt, don't drag me into your game of make-believe. It's annoying.
Who was he to talk? Dishu Keiki, that was who. That settled it for me. He was as fake as they came. Just like Senjogahara said. Just like he, himself, said. A proud fake willing to go through life feeling inferior.
What's more, you absorbed half of it. It may take even less than 3 days for her to recover. I don't know how you did it, but I'm impressed. It's proof enough, Araragi, that you and I are incompatible. We're not even like oil and water, but oil and fire.
Who's the fire and who's the oil?
Who knows, but neither of us seems particularly fiery. How about we change it to rubidium and water? In that case, I would be the rubidium.
So that'd make me water. In which case, Karen and Tsukihi had to be the fire. Fire and fire. Put them together, and they made a conflagration. The Fire Sisters.
Araragi, are you familiar with shogi?
Shogi? I'm as familiar with it as the next person, but what does that have to do with anything?
It doesn't. It's just idle conversation. But humor me. What about you, Senjogahara? Are you familiar with shogi?
Nope.
But she was lying. There was no way she wasn't familiar with our domestic version of chess. In fact, I bet she was quite good at it.
It's a simple game. relatively shallow at its core. The number of pieces is limited. The manner in which they can move is also limited. The board is clearly drawn. Every aspect is finite. In other words, the possibilities are extraordinarily limited from the start. It is very low level, as games go, with no room for complication. And yet, the very best shogi players are, without exception, geniuses. A game that should be open to mastery by the most mediocre of intellects is mastered by none but the most intelligent. Do you know why that is?
No. You tell me.
Because shogi is a contest of speed. In an official match, there is always a timer set on the table. That's why. If there's a time limit, the simpler the rules, the more exciting the game is. How expediently can the player consider his options? In short, intelligence is a matter of speed. However masterful a given strategy with enough time, any player could mimic it. The crux lies in not spending that time. Like shogi, life is finite. How to spend less time thinking, or to put it another way, how fast you can think is key. As someone who's been alive much longer than either of you, allow me to give you one piece of advice.
Save it. I don't need any from you.
Now, don't think too much. From my point of view, people who get too preoccupied with their own thoughts are as easy to deceive as people who don't think at all. Think in moderation, and act in moderation. That is the lesson for you to take home from this.
So, said Dishu Kaiki.
Your cell phone. Give me your phone.
Kaiki reached into his suit, drew out a black cell phone, and placed it in her palm as ordered. It was a flip phone. Senjogahara bent it backward with brute force breaking it. Then she dropped it onto the concrete and stepped on it as though to put it out of its misery.
What a nasty thing to do. There was a lot of information I need for my work on that phone.
You mean for your scams?
Of course, but now I can't help those middle school children either, because I no longer have my client's contact information.
Why should I care whether or not you help some middle school kids I've never met? Araragi, I'm about to say one of the worst things I could say.
Huh?
Wasn't it their own fault?
She was addressing Kaiki the confidence man who had duped her too, but spoke the words without hesitation.
I'm no defender of justice, only an enemy of the wicked. Besides, you couldn't help those victims, not you. Even if you tried, you'd wind up pulling a worse scam.
I probably would. I am a con man. Even my reparations are made in lies. You two may not want to understand this, but for me, making money is about more than profit and loss.
Your problem is that...
Senjogahara started to say something but changed her mind. She suddenly stepped aside out of Keiki's way. It seemed to be her way of saying the conversation was over. This was it, the end. All done.
I should thank you. I came here ready to get slain, but I must admit, I do not like pain. If there's a thing or two you need to tell me to my face, I'll listen. Surely you have feelings that have burdened you these so many years. What is my problem, pray tell?
Nothing, muttered Keiki. He sounded terribly disappointed.
You truly have grown into a very boring woman, Senjogahara. If not dramatic, back in the day you sure were the best, truly worth deceiving. A rare treat for a con artist. Now you have become tedious, heavy with excess fat. What happened to the seed that I sowed? Did it rot? If so, I wish you'd remained forgotten to me. That way, you'd have continued to shine on in the hazy recesses of my recollection. To me, that way, you'd have continued to shine on in the hazy recesses of my...
Shut up. You can say whatever you like about the old me, but don't insult who I am now. Araragi says he loves me. This me, so I like this me. I'm not going to stand by while you slight what I am now.
What? You two are in a relationship?
Kaiki seemed genuinely surprised He was a match for Senjogahara in how little his expressions changed, but a look of real astonishment had crossed his face.
I see. In that case, I won't say another word. The third wheel is the first to crack.
He slipped past between Senjogahara and me and kept his back turned to us.
Well then, if you say reparations are not required, I will not be making them. After all, I'd rather not engage in any activity that is not lucrative. I will slink away from this town. Come tomorrow, I will already be gone. Is that acceptable, Senjogahara?
Answer me one thing. Why did you come back to this town? After you already left once?
I told you. I barely remember my last visit. It wasn't until I got your call that I recalled working this area before. That's how it is.
How it is?
A vampire. I heard a ridiculous story about a vampire. The so-called King of Aberrations. Showing up in this town if I had to give you a reason. I guess that would be it. Such places are ripe for occult-related work. A hangout for aberrations. Not that I actually believe in them, of course.
I glanced down at my shadow once more. There was no reaction of any sort. It was early evening, so she was probably still asleep. Either that, or she was listening, but staying quiet. A vampire king and slayer of aberrations. An iron-blooded, hot-blooded, yet cold-blooded vampire.
That reminds me, Senjogahara. I have a story I think you'd like to hear.
I'm not interested.
It's about that man who tried to violate you. Apparently he was hit by a car and died. In a place and manner that have absolutely nothing to do with you, and without any hint of drama.
Kaiki reported indifferently as he started to walk away.
That's how it is with the past that's eating at you. It's not even worth settling. The man who hurt you won't be coming back as a worse threat, and the mother who left you will not repent in return. That is life. The past expires the moment it slips away. The lesson for you to take home from this is not to expect the dramatic in life.
That's probably just another lie, anyway. Why would a man who didn't even remember me until this morning know anything about the man who tried to have his way with me? And my mother, you don't know what you're talking about. Put a leash on your spite. Is trying to confuse me so amusing to you?
Not at all, as I don't stand to earn a single penny. But Senjogahara, don't see things so superficially. Is it not possible that the lie was that I'd forgotten you?
A lie?
That's such a lie, Senjogahara said. Which statement was she referring to?
Whether or not it's a lie, in the end there is no such thing as truth in this world. You needn't worry. The fact that you once had a crush on me doesn't make you unfaithful. Don't hold a grudge against me in your exertions to be devoted to your current boyfriend. Let me repeat myself. The past is no more than the past. There is no value in overcoming or overtaking it. A woman of your worth shouldn't be bound by petty concerns. Go live happily ever after with this young man.
Adieu, he bade. Unlike Ashino, who never said goodbye, the swindler ended his speech with a farewell salutation, but without a shred of sincerity, almost as if it were slapped on in savage haste. And so Daishu Kaiki went away. I, Senjogahara, too, stood frozen for some time. It had gone perfectly. We couldn't have asked for a better outcome. And yet, why were we left feeling so powerless? Not defeated, so much as hollow. Sadly, at this rate, Karen would never go crushing on me. It was a far cry from showing off. Still, putting aside my own regrets, I felt like we'd been able to work through Senjogahara's that deserved a passing grade. You had a crush on him? It wasn't the best way to break the silence, but that was hard to let slide without comment. Maybe it wasn't manly of me, but I had to put the question to her.
Excuse me? Araragi, are you worried your girlfriend might not be, virgin?
There wasn't much I could say in response. That wasn't what I had meant, but I guess I had to admit to having given such an impression. But instead of taking me to task any further, Senjogahara answered me.
Of course not. How could I? That was just his imagination. What a smug creep. It's just at that point in my life I probably would have thought of anybody who tried to help me. whoever it was, as a prince. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't look favorably on that fraud at all.
He was only the first, she added. True. This was Senjogahara, who had been more resigned but also more tenacious than anyone who, resigning and giving it up, hadn't resigned or given it up.
I brought this up before, and I don't mean to hash it out again. But if someone other than you had saved me, I might have fallen for that person instead.
She followed that up without giving me a chance to cut in.
The thought makes me sick. I'm so glad it was you who saved me.
I tried to say something failed and in the end, just lamely repeated something I'd said before. According to Oshino, though, you just went and got saved. Damn it. If only I could think of something cool to say at a time like this, I'd be a full-fledged man. Pathetic. Senjogahara didn't object to my words, nodding and murmuring.
Maybe, after seeing Kaiki, I can understand why you disliked Oshino so much. I disliked Mr. Oshino, I hate Kaiki. There's a big difference. Let's go home. The sun is already setting, I almost feel like this was all a waste of time. Still, it's good that you didn't meet that man under different circumstances. That's something, at least.
True. Senjogahara made a good point. Kidnapping me might have been taking things a bit far, but I was lucky she had taken the initiative. The problem with me and Keiki went beyond not mixing. We couldn't be less compatible. We weren't just enemies, but natural enemies. If we meet again, it will probably be to kill each other. That probably wasn't the right thing to say in front of Senjogahara, but it was all I could. I didn't mean much by it. Those were my honest feelings when it came to the man known as Daishu Kaiki. In other words, the lesson for me, Koyomi Araragi, to take home from this was that I should never meet Daishu Kaiki again for the rest of my life. Not that there was any big catastrophe, but I think this couldn't have turned out better.
What kind of dish was that again? Gatastroganoff? Araragi, once you start thinking that it might be a valid creed with its different form of justice, you lose. Watch out.
I will.
Let's go home. Oh, right, by the way. Before we leave, what's this request of yours? You can't just foreshadow and then forget about it. To be honest, I'm on pins and needles here. What in the world do I have to do?
Nothing major. Maybe, like that swindler said, it wasn't worth putting an end to. But as far as I'm concerned, I just settled with my past.
Settled, huh?
It was something we all had to do. Senjogahara, Hanakawa, me too. And Shinobu.
Tell me I did good.
Is that your request?
No way. Praise from the likes of you, Araragi, would hardly delight me. You seem to be forgetting to fulfill a basic duty, so I'm simply reminding you.
This woman, was she actually made of iron?
Iron? Of course not, I'm a soft, cute girl. And after listening to that man go on, I feel very fragile. Look at me. I'm in shambles.
Liar. Who's the con artist here? I quipped.
I mean it. So,
Her face as expressionless as ever, or maybe a bit angrily expressionless, and in a supremely flat tone Senjogahara voiced her request.
so tonight, be kind to me.
The epilogue, or maybe the punchline of this story. The next day, in a reversal of our usual roles, I was the one to rouse my two sisters, Karen and Tsukihi. They were both on the top bunk, naked, holding each other in their slumber. The idea that the warmth of skin-to-skin contact could help cure a cold was, itself, a kind of urban legend, but as the one waking them, I must say it was a shocking sight. You guys are way too close. But an aberration for an aberration, an urban legend for an urban legend, and, to borrow from Shinobu, a charm for a charm indeed. Just as Kaiki had said, we didn't have to wait 3 days. Karen was already back to her old self that morning. If anything, she was too energetic. I guess for Karen, the picture of a healthy kid being under the weather must have been pretty stressful.
Hiya!
Seriously though, what kind of dojo was this? I needed to check it out sometime. By the way, Tsukihi was more than a little cross at Karen for sneaking out despite being ill, not for the sneaking out but for not telling. How they managed to make up and wind up sleeping Leslie sisters style remained a mystery. Well, it must have been a right and fine fight too. After breakfast, my parents left for work, so I called Karen and Tsukihi to my room to give them a quick rundown of yesterday's events. Kaiki was no longer in town. As a result, there would be no more victims. Those 2 points. As for the aberration itself, I thought long and hard about it but decided that for now at least, I should leave it out. Karen's condition could be explained well enough in terms of the placebo effect and instantaneous hypnosis, and for the moment telling them about Shinobu just seemed reckless. It may have been indirect, but Karen had given Shinobu a major beating. I didn't think now was the right time to introduce them. But I had a weird hunch that I'd be doing so before too long. Keeping a secret from my sisters was probably beyond me. Monday, July 31st, it was an odd-numbered day, so my tutor was Hanakawa. I was curious as to how she'd make up for Saturday's cancellation, but it also scared me. As I prepared to head to the library and reminded myself that I needed to get my bike back from Hanakawa today, Karen and Tsukihi slipped past me.
Kayomi, I'm heading out for a little bit.
Koyomi, I'm heading out for a lot of bits.
Karen was dressed in her school jersey, and Tsukihi was dressed in her school uniform. Where to? Leslie sisters?
Just because the conman is gone doesn't mean all the charms are suddenly gone, yeah? Or that all the relationships he ruined are gonna suddenly recover? There won't be any more victims, but it's not like all the kids who fell victim have been saved, am I right?
It was Karen who said this as she slipped on her shoes. Tsukihi was already standing outside the door. I suppose. He did say that with his phone smashed. He couldn't help, not that he was ever going to.
Exactly. Which is why it's up to us to take care of the aftermath.
Don't get carried away playing at Defenders of Justice.
We're not playing at it, we are the defenders of justice.
We're not defenders of justice. We are justice itself.
See ya. They left with parting words that didn't remotely hint at having learned anything the hard way. My little sisters, my pride and joy, quite possibly closer to the real deal than anything, thanks to their fakeness. Like fireworks lit by a spark, the Fire Sisters made their sortie.